You are watching Season 5 of the Fortnite Champions Series for Oceania, presented by the Australian Open. My name is Vandy, and I'm going to be your host for today. For our third week of qualifiers, I'm once again joined by our big brain analysts, Fallout and Timmy. Fallout, although it's only been a week, it feels like a month. How are you?
That is true. It's been quite the long week, but I'm doing well. Obviously, a little bit sad that we no longer have any tennis with the Australian Open having wrapped up, but excited and grateful for the Australian Open and Epic Games partnership because it means we got one more week here. Our last week in qualifiers, which I think is going to be excited. I'm really looking forward to it.
You really did summarize it well. Although the tennis action, although the offline content may have wrapped up, we've got plenty more online content to keep you pumped. And speaking of pumped, Timmy, how are you today? I know it's not 40 degrees, so I think you're pumped about that.
Yeah, finally. I'm not going to be dying of heat here in my room, which is fantastic. But no, super pumped to see a bunch of new teams today, and see how the games turn out.
We're going to do it all over again. But if you don't know what we're talking about, or maybe if you're new to this broadcast, I'm going to get my trusty friend here, Fallout, to take you through the structure of the tournament and how this qualifier week is going to work, because we are already up to week 3 of the qualifiers. So Fallout, just explain it for everyone at home.
Absolutely. Love this format as well. We'll pull a graphic on screen that'll help you guys visualize it as well. But we do have 3 weeks of qualifiers that are 4 rounds long, so a lot of action. And of course, the top 10 teams from each heat or each week of qualifiers will qualify through. In addition to that, we will have 102 teams from series points that qualify to the semifinals, which will be a 2-day affair. The top 8 teams from each heat, there will be 4 heats in the semifinals, will make it to the grand finals, and then the 9th through 16th place teams in each heat will go to a reboot round, which will be a one-match, winner-take-all opportunity to qualify to the grand finals. I'm excited for that. And that leaves us to our grand finals, which will be a 32-team from groups and heats affair, the 1 team from the reboot round, and a 2-day affair starting on March 13th, where we will then crown our Chapter 2 Season 5 champion. Again, I love the format, and I love some of the pivots from Epic Games. And most importantly, I like the fact that it's just an open qualifier, which means we could have Cinderella stories. Anyone can kind of come out of nowhere and qualify through. Anyone can participate. Anyone can win.
As you said, anyone can participate, anyone can manage to make it to the finish line. And Timmy, this is where I'm going to use some of your help, because it's important to know how exactly we're scoring this and how the teams participating today will be able to secure their spot in the qualifiers. So could you please just break it down for everyone at home?
Yeah, for sure. So we're actually going to see a different scoring format to semis. If you're up to date with how semi scoring works, it's 25 points for the win and 1 point per elim. In finals, it's different. We've got 30 points for the win there. As you see, first place is 30 points top left of your screen. But bottom right of your screen, 2 points per elim. That's huge. It provides a bit more of incentive for those players who play mid-ground late game to get a few more elims. It gives them some legitimacy. Whereas if you're playing high end game and you're sort of playing for the win more, you've also got that legitimacy with a 30-point victory royale. So we're going to see a lot of versatility. We're going to see both play styles work out. We're going to see some awesome games today here in the last week of qualifiers.
You summarized it really well. It does open up a lot of different opportunities in terms of our scoring and the way we've set it up, and it's something a little bit different. But of course, we need to know what everyone at home is grinding for and what these players are playing for. So Fallout, I always get really excited talking about prizes, but I'm going to contain my hype because I'd like you to tell the audience what we've got at stake here.
Absolutely. I'll try and do it justice as well by not calling them dollars, calling them dollary dues, 90,000 dollary dues to be precise available. I'm learning that my Aussie slang here, but looking forward to seeing who will take home the lion's share of that 90,000 American dollars. Keep in mind, that's US dollars. So in Australian dollars, it's about 120,000. So 22K for first, all the way down to $900 for 15th place. Second will take home 15 grand. Third will take home $9,000. So a significant opportunity. I also love how Epic decided to kind of put the prizing in the grand finals, which makes it feel more like a major or like an S-tier event. Win and go big when it matters the most, which is in the grand finals. Everything up until then is qualifying to make it there ready.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fallout, for breaking it down. And as I said, big fan of you adopting the Aussie terminology. And the fact that this is paid out in USD means that we get more bang for our Aussie bucks. So it's really cool to see. But I've got a really cool sneak peek for everyone at home at the exclusive FNCS OCE performance coming up later tonight. with Aishwarya and Loserfruit. We all know Lufu, but Aishwarya is one of Australia's rising stars on the global music scene. She's been hailed as one of our most exciting homegrown new acts as she hails from Melbourne, Australia. Aishwarya fuses dark pop beats with Bhangra-influenced drumming. Stay tuned at the end of the broadcast for a link to the full show. But Fallout, if I recall, you had the pleasure of meeting Loserfruit last Australian Open. What's she like?
I did. I have not met Aishwarya maybe one day, but I did have a chance to meet Lufu. She's awesome. Look, as genuine as it gets. She took so much time to make sure to meet as many fans as possible. I've never seen someone sign more autographs in my entire life. So super humble, really kind, just a good person, good-hearted person overall. What you see is what you get with Lufu. And I'm excited to watch this after the stream when it airs. It seems like a really, really cool opportunity. And again, kudos to Epic for organizing partnerships like this. It's been really cool.
I agree. And I mean, I spotted some of Lufu's dances right there. I'm pretty sure some of them were Fortnite influenced. So Lufu is on fire. Aishwarya, some of her stuff I actually listened to before stream. Highly recommend checking it out. So as I said, we'll be dropping that link a little bit later in the show. But guys, let's change gears for a moment here. I know we've talked about some really exciting stuff, but let's recap the week that was. So I'm going to get you, Timmy, to recap who are our top 10 who qualified from the previous week. Maybe do it as a refresher for anyone at home, or maybe just do it for anyone that wasn't able to tune into the games.
Yeah, sure. So we had Jinx, Alec, and Worthy coming in first. If you remember, they were last season's FNCS champions. And then we had Goeg, Scammed, and Zorka in second. Daneth, Osiris, and Skits, which was Aussie's sort of dark horse pick to win in his predictions, coming in third. Our last year's AO champion, Brezzo, coming in fourth there with Culture and Luna, dropping Bridge, unfortunately, but picking up Luna, one of the better IGLs in the region, to help lead them through to fourth. And then Bathan, Zedox, and Sia rounding out fifth Fallout.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Jinx, Alec, and Worthy absolutely slayed out as you'd expect them to. And then I was really impressed by Daneth, Osiris, and Co. Again, that was Aussie's dark horse prediction, but I like to see that. But always excited to see two controller players right there rounding it out in fourth place in Brezzo and Culture.
Fallout, I'm loving that you mentioned the word predictions again, because as you said, last week it was a little bit here and there. I really couldn't see any kind of uniform decision making. Let's bring up this week's predictions. And Timmy, I think we need to discuss and address the elephant in the room, which is Repulse's squad.
Yeah, look, I can't turn away from them this week. The amount of pure talent they have on the squad, Repulse probably the most pure talented, or like just genuinely talented Fortnite players in the world, not just in the region, but in the world. And then Forbes, same thing, one of the most just genuinely talented controller players. And then they round out with Tyrax, who's probably one of the more versatile players in the region, who can do all sorts of things across all sorts of different roles. And the reason that they've been picked is because we saw how dominant they were in weeks 1 and 2 in terms of W King. They may have avoided qualifying so they could keep on playing and, quote unquote practicing. But it's really up to now. Fallout, break me down why Aussie may have gone for Zora Jalan this week's here.
Yeah, look, Jalan's been competing for a very long time. I had a chance to cast him at the first Australian Open way back in 2019. He's been to land before. He's competed in pressure moments. I like the fact that Aussie decided to shake it up a little bit, make it interesting, give us something to talk about. So kudos to him. Zora, obviously a beast and squeaks in their own right as well, but you can never sleep on Jalan as a competitor in my eyes, Timmy.
Yeah, absolutely. Two of the best players in the region, Zora and Jalan, you got to remember, went over to NA East a while back in trios and really proved themselves there with Papi. So to see them up on predictions to come first, I don't blame Aussie at all.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add on Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax, they were the most dominant team in any region through the qualifiers. They were the only team to drop 200 points in round 3 and 100-plus eliminations in round 3. They had 236 points and 122 elims. They had the highest single-game elim game of any team in the region with 31 elims in one of their games. They dominated. They've been dominating the qualifiers. Obviously, have been wanting to play and continue to compete in these qualifiers and get the practice. And I think today you're going to see them in full form. So I'm really looking forward to watching them absolutely stop this lobby, which I think is going to happen. They are just so talented, so mechanically skilled and gifted, and they're really in a class of their own.
Well, 3 of you have predicted that they're going to do exactly that. It's just Aussie antics. We need to see whether he's going to get... It's not really a dark horse pick of this. He just wanted to go against the crowd, it felt like, just not blending in with the cool kids. Before I pass you over, of course, to Aussie Antics and Monster, any final thoughts about what we're going to expect to see today, or any thoughts that you'd like to bring us? Any thoughts you'd like to summarize from match 1?
Yeah, personally on my end, a couple more teams to look out for. Obviously, we didn't really have a lot of diversity in our teams to look out for in our predictions. So I'll just say Russian Kazi and Spy, 11th place, just barely did not qualify last time around. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Our team that's not from Australia traditionally, I think they're coming from the Middle East, in Fizz, Toggle, and Zwitty. Well, they're a 3-times qualifier and making it to the finals. We'll see if they can make it through a top 10 finish here. A couple other teams you got to look out for are Nunker, Grav, and Chains. They got top 15 last time around. And Results, Snow, and Prexy played really, really well in qualifiers as well. So just a couple more teams to look out for in my eyes. Timmy, anything you'd add to that?
No, I think you've covered off those extra teams really well. One thing I think is really important to note is that we lost 20 of the best trios in the region. So now what we have is 20 new trios in here, and we're going to see a real range of people that we might not know much about. So it's going to be really cool to see some new play styles, some new players coming in here, giving us a real good show.
Thanks for that, guys. Enough from us at the analyst desk. I know that probably Aussie Antics and Monster are chomping at the bit, ready to go and, of course, get into game number 1. So let's just hear from them. Aussie, we're chucking it your way.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Yes, we are incredibly excited. You guys touched on it there as well. We're going to see some new faces. We got a few old faces. Obviously, with those predictions are most of the people on the board here kind of going for the old faces to dominate Monster. I mean, they already summed it up well right there, why you picked Repulse, but you didn't fanboy. You picked them week 1 and 2 as well. So I'm going to let you get the pass.
Yeah, and listen, come on over to my side of the fence, all right? Listen, we know Repulse, his entire trio. They're a great trio, like Timmy literally alluded to. They had a strategy coming into this. They wanted to play a certain way, just again to extend their practice coming into this. So without a doubt, now's the time to pop off. Nothing's going to hold them back, and we're expecting them to do very well.
Yeah, expect them to do very well as well. And obviously, I swayed away from that one a little bit. I did do it a little bit for the storyline, but I genuinely think Zora, Jarlin, and Squeak can do well. And also, I think it's because the pressure's on them. We didn't touch on it too much there in the pre-show. They're pretty much the top-tier team that's coming into this that need to get top 10 today. They only formed this week. So in case you're confused on how the whole qualifying system works, because they've now formed in the final week, they've lost any consistency points they built up with other teams. This is their kind of do-or-die moment. If they don't get top 10, you will not see Zora, Jarlin, or Squeaks in the finals, and that is massive. Timmy alluded to it. Zora and Jarlin have not only proved themselves in Trio, FNCS, OCE, they've gone over to your turf and done it too, Monster.
Yeah, they really have. You were talking international superstars, these Australian players like Repulse, Zora, Jarlin, Parpy, right? Volks. There's so many that have done it already and shown, hey, Australia, OCE as a region, as strong as individual players, they can come over, they can pop off. We talk about teams missing the mark, though, in pressure moments like this. We saw it today on EU as well, right?
Yeah.
Mongrel Squad not making it through. Ibohai, right? These guys didn't make the cut. These kind of things, these upsets happen.
Yeah, their pressure's on as well when it comes down to those final rounds. These guys have all made it into round 4, so a few of them feeling a bit more comfortable in the series points. But yeah, it's who can handle the pressure. And that's why, obviously, we all picked between 2 separate teams. And Timmy touched on it there as well. There's going to be a lot of new faces, a lot of new teams in this. And I think it's going to be quite fun to discover them. I know how you've been feeling, Monster. Like you said, I'm going to show you the ropes on OCE. I think you're learning more than what you've realized about the teams. But coming into it today, it's looking like a lot of fresh faces, even for me, who's been watching OCE for years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, these kind of things are definitely going to be toss-ups, right? I think we're going to expect this across the board here for all regions leading into this weekend of FNCS. We're talking about the way that the qualification works in particular, right? The best teams, the top 10 or top 8, right? They get cut off. They're not allowed to welcome themselves back. So naturally, we are going to see the filter up. We are going to see new teams break into the heats. And the smaller the region, the more likely we are to see a wider range, I'd say, of players.
Yeah, massive wide range of players. We have quite a few teams making it in who's their first time in round 4. So as I talk about that kind of situation the Zora's teams got themselves in, a lot of other teams are in that similar position, not through virtue of switching teams, but just this was their moment. They made it to round 4. A lot of them don't have the consistency points they'd maybe need to qualify, so they have to jump up in top 10. So I'm going to see if any squad's able to do that, especially around that bottom like 33 mark. Anyone can have their day. You never know. But these games have been pretty stacked, Monster. We talked about it last week. OCE's got some different pacing. It's usually early aggression, but then things kind of, chill out a bit in the mid game, and then we ramp up at the end game with some usually pretty active Storm Surge lobbies, with teams like Repulse maybe toning it down or speeding it up. I don't know if the pacing is going to change.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think when we bring in more of like those Division Two, those lower tier, those up and coming players, right? We see a slower, more serious pace from them. But the question is, with the wide gap of like the repulses, the Zoras, the Jolins in there, it is going to come down to how they're feeling today, right? How seriously do they want to play? Or are they just going to go all forward and treat it like an arena? It's really going to depend, right, on how they're feeling.
Well, that's the thing with your guys' predictions as well. Everyone's kind of figuring that, the training wheels have come off now. Like, Repulse is going to chill. He's going to actually start playing the games properly. Maybe he's not going to sprint at every team he sees because it's the last chance to, really pop off and make a name for himself. Or the complete opposite. His team is guaranteed qualified through into heats on consistency. He can come completely last today and it won't matter. So does that mean we just get fully unhinged Repulse team? I don't know. All I know is it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, I think we're going to get the fully unhinged Repulse. I feel like he's been like that since week one. He just kind of knew, right? Yep. He says, hey, listen, I'm good enough. I'm going to pop off. I'm going to get the points where he need it. And like what was it week one where he pulled off like 3 games and it put him way up in the standings, nearly falling his way through just off of a couple of rounds. And we know once they get rolling, they're unstoppable in a sense, again, approaching some of the highest elimination chains we've seen so far.
Yeah, and other teams are going to be aware of that as well. You talked about some of the teams coming into this around those bottom end that are trying to make themselves. They don't have the confidence to maybe go toe-to-toe with them like some of the other teams we've already seen qualified through. So that Misty Meadows, that kind of South Zone area is going to be a no-go zone. Like, if you're dropping anywhere around that, you're taking a wide berth around, you're rotating around. If you see a team get eliminated on your feed and you realize it's in the hands of a team like Repulse or Zora, Jal, and Squeaks, you're probably going the other way if you're taking your tournament more seriously. So I think it could change up the pace. But either way, I mean, like I said, it's going to be entertaining. Last week, we had some triple pickaxe strategies. I don't know if we're going to maybe go further down the meme strat here, but either way, we don't have to wonder anymore. We are jumping into game number 1 of 6 here tonight in the final qualifying round. This is round 4, week 3. These are these teams' last chance to qualify into the semifinals, which will be taking next place next weekend. And let's see how the map shakes up. Already, we talked about a monster, our Middle East team, Fizz. They're looking like they're sticking to their normal strategy, go in the Caddy Corners weather station area.
Yeah, they land on anyone who wants to come here and fight it out. They play it like they don't have a disadvantage at all. Toggles, Woody, and Viz, really just being, I guess, a pillar of fun for the comm here, right? We know that they're against all odds. We know they have big hurdles to overcome, and they've managed to win the draw spot. And this week, it seems like they're completely uncontested. So that's 2 weeks in a row now that they have it to themselves. We talked about Misty Meadows, though, being a particular drop that we should be, I guess, afraid of, right? And they should be uncontested coming into this. We're talking about Repulse's trio. But remember, week 1, they showed that they will land on Dirty, they will land on Lazy Lake, they will hop around wherever it is that they feel like, because they kind of know they're good.
Yeah, I think they kind of know as well. They're feeling confident. We got quite a few teams here who have managed to triple qual, and right now the map is looking pretty normal. I mean, Dirty Docs was always going to get teams at it. I knew we were going to get some teams dropping in there because we don't have, we don't have Jinx's team there anymore. The kings of Dirty Docs are out. They've qualified. They're through. So I was wondering to see which teams would kind of step in there, and this is not, I guess, kind of expected. It's 2 teams that I'm happy to admit I don't know a lot about at all. We kind of got a flying shot there on the right side. So that's 2 new teams trying to have their big games, and not a surprising strategy. If you need to have a huge game, go to a big drop, especially if there's no big names trying to stake it out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that is for sure the time to go toe-to-toe with anyone. It's now, it's here where, your chances at winning them are probably a lot higher. That's going to come down to preparation. But you got to take it with a grain of salt. If you can win the draw spot here in week 3, it's not going to be the same for Heats, right? Heats and the grand finals, for example, the finals, that stage is going to be much, much different. We will be expecting a higher caliber of player there.
Yeah, so what do you think? The higher caliber kind of making it in there, getting those big drops we've talked about a lot. It's the gold economy. Right now, we have an early fight breaking down over a spot that you wouldn't think would be heavily contested by 3 teams. But right now, Get going in right now has has a common lever action, getting some serious damage out with it, though. And I'm pretty sure he's getting pickaxed. Is my man getting pickaxed right now? I talk about a shamble drop spot. This does not have enough loot for 6 players. So I knew someone was going to be running a little bit dry, but I didn't think it'd be down to a pickaxe.
Dude, Buck almost pulled that off as well. It was just a swing or 2 away. But no, it's not going to be enough. They wrap it up. Look at that. They walk away pretty decent for what it's worth. We saw Jack in a struggle of a fight there, but his teammates were looking pretty decent.
Yes, teammates looking pretty decent. I was going to say potentially that's a triple drop to try and lock down that Kami split that has been so fought after in the different regions, Monster. Massive split of area around that bridge all the way down to Lazy Lake. And when you have two teams who want to try and claim some of it, quite often it leads to, you know, all three or six of them dropping on a really shambles spot, as we have a fight taken out of a Hunter's Haven. And almost every region you and me have watched, Monster, I haven't really seen a spawn contestant at Hunters. It's a good drop if you get it by yourself. It's a not so great drop if you're splitting it with three other people.
Yeah, for sure. That is not a split drop. And like you said, you can be isolated, right? You can really be singled out, picked off. And that can happen from any number of different locations in the area. Luckily, again, they walk away successful, right? Because if you got to play off a reboot at that point, that is not a forgiving drop spot to reboot off of.
Yeah, no, that's not a forgiving spot at all. And you talked about it. Zwitty, Fizz, and Toggle were willing to fight any team that came their way. And this is interesting. I would have said they're going to be at a massive disadvantage due to them playing from Middle East on average 100 ping. And they're going up against one of the better teams that is here today. Venecy's team, Trixie as well. But they've already proven they can do it against Remy's team, which is an incredibly solid team on OCE. So I don't doubt them here. And right now, they're playing it so well, getting the split angles, beaming this team down, and really just they're proving why not only are they playing on 100 ping and still dominating, they came top 5 in round 3 yesterday, Monster. They're not just making it here, they're actually proving they deserve to be here conclusively, hands down, as they've now wiped 2 of the 3 players of this team. It is now a 3v1. This is going to be a clean sweep.
Yeah, definitely, and they're pushing. They're looking to get all the way through. Taco now makes a quick edit. There's a great shot. It should be a cleanup, and yes, they do it just like that. Known to dance on all their opponents because they have every right to. As you can see, even if there is anyone else left here, we're going to get the barrel as well. But no, they clean this up. They make it look easy for what it's worth. And now they get to move on with the entire area to themselves.
They get the entire area now. That's Weather Station and Caddy, and I don't know if they managed to get any of the bounty quests to get some gold. We saw it happen a lot in NA East. We talked about the big chill last week. The snowball launcher is still in competitive play. Chap's team was using it this week. Kalazo's team used it last week in round 4 to actually push them through to qualification. They would have enough gold for it, but I've actually talked to Zwitty's team. They've been in my chat a few times, and they've said they don't really like to prioritize it. They'd much rather just prioritize upgrading to their epic shotguns and ARs, which I respect ultimately. It's me always wanting a little bit of fun in it, as this is a scary look. We've got the boys, the triple pick from the casters, rolling out in the car, completely stacked, as you'd imagine, from uncontested Misty.
Yeah, the medium ammunition is the key indicator that they have everything they're going to need to put pressure on the lobby. Not only that, it's upgraded rifles, upgraded shotguns right across the board. So seems like everything just went in their favor with their upgrade route, right, in general. And of course, like we said, it's all uncontested, so there's no problem for them there.
No problem for them at all. And Kilo's team looking like they've got a pretty good loadout as well. Maybe going for this kind of spot that's held down a lot. This drop was really popularized by DGen's team on NA East, getting that orchard kind of tomato house as well. And it looks pretty good as we got another big fight breaking out of a Slurpee. And now this is a POI worth fighting for, as LZQM has to try and back this one in as WPuck goes down. Taken now up in this one as well. LZ's got the firepower, but they're down in numbers now. 2v3. Elusive's team dropping down lower. Movrix is in this fight as well, so this is a scary one. You got some serious firepower here. Movrix has been weakened. Machu is one of the scarier teams in this lobby. They dominated in round 2, slowed down in round 3 yesterday as well, but really do have the firepower to be one of the teams to look out for here today. Kind of giving and right now though, Elusive's on the back foot though. Taken right now is putting him on the back foot.
Yeah, definitely. We get to see the other enemy perspective, like we just switch over from trio to trio, but it's a long fought battle. You can see at one point they had the lead, and now things switch over. They're on the other foot, but Maverick's going to get beaten there by LZQM, and again, they pressure them back down. So bit of a tug of war. It's a back and forth between the two trios. Who will walk away on top?
Yeah, it's going to be... They've got the reboot there. They've also got Slurpee Swamps. You've got the shield to replenish things back up if this fight does leave you a little bit shambles, but it's a long drawn-out fight right now. They're getting their surge out of this one, but yeah, they're down to low builds. 21 builds right now for LZ. Needs to drop down and do something. We still do have 80 players alive, 28 teams, so Surge is a very kind of worrying state right now. They're getting a little bit of damage, but not really enough to sway off Storm Surge, as Maverick's team choosing to disengage. I didn't see this coming in. Early on in the tournament, that's
my
not what you
gosh.
want to do, because you've exposed that you're a little bit scared, you're not feeling confident, and just for that, Matthew gets sniped here. Beautiful by Taker, and they've kind of narrowed this one down to, I want to say, a 2v2. They got to get the finish, though. LZ's going straight in, P90 on the roof. That's big confidence, Monster.
Yeah, he's got to take advantage of this. You don't get to turn fights around like this often, and let alone get a team to run away, right? Especially when they had the advantage, all manpower in the feed. Though I saw Repulse popping off too, so it's a war everywhere right now. The biggest teams obviously getting it in. Up and comers here, you get to see them getting it shaken as well. And oh, I think he might just get the res off. Yes, no, it actually gets canceled. A final tick there. Okay, now it's a fair 2v2.
And the scary thing for this team, unless the RPG changed hands, it means Mavericks team dropped the Hydro Dam and then chose to push this fight at Slurpee and has now been put on the back foot, which is not what you want. It always feels worse when you choose to take a fight and then you lose it, as opposed to being pushed onto out of your choice. And Mavericks are now trying to work his way in. No spare shield, but I don't think anyone does left in this fight now. It's been dragging out for a while. 2v2 situation, and Mavericks team had the loadout. They didn't need to take this fight, and somehow that RPG finds its way through and connects. That was a beautiful angle from Mavericks, as now they're kind of, it's just going backwards and forwards, Monster. This is such a good fight to watch. It's tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, it really is. That's why I said it. It's legit a tug of war between the two. They're just going back and forth. No side being the dominant side, but that RPG, such a big, massive shot there, even onto Taker. And Taker gets an opportunity to re-heal. He bounces right back as if he never left. And that's the thing about this draw spot. You see him using those kegs, right? All the additionals. They landed here. They know what's available as opposed to the counterparts who pushed in right late. So they have all the advantage.
They have all the advantage, and then the other thing is this fight's dragging out for a while. They are in zone, but things are going to be scary on the next rotate, because yeah, they can get the extra shield back onto their health pool right now by breaking the barrels. They can't carry it with them, as we have Zorajal and Squeaks getting their first point on the board. 2 points up now, 1 elimination. Remember, this is a different scoring format for round 4. If you guys are tuning in at home, you have the eliminations being worth 2. Wins are worth 30, but worth noting, the top 3 is worth half the total placement points. So you really need those big games, but it's interesting to see our do or die team here get their 1 elimination on the board. Only 1, so I guess maybe a tag and the team disengaged. I'm going to think on the hands of a sniper rifle. Not really sure. It was in the hands of Jarlin, as they've got a good loadout pushing into endgame now.
Finally, you see the feet catch up. Taker is going to take out Mavericks. That's the Slippery Swamps fight, more or less concluding there. They're hopping back and forth. Here it is. You go in. Elusive is now by himself. Mavericks down as well. So a long, drawn-out fight here. Hopefully, he's got those reboot cards, none of which they played for the pickup, and it's a 2v1. We've all been in these situations. We know how tough it is to fight against one player, let alone two players at this caliber. Yeah, it's just not going to go well, and they will be able to get the reboot off, but there's teams rotating in. So now the question is, did they take too long?
Did they take too long? And that's the thing, we don't really have figured out the pacing yet in these rounds. There's a lot of question marks. I guess the pacing is going very OCE right now. There's a lot of early game fights breaking out. Chemo's team is in a full-blown 3v3 right now. 193 buff Storm Surge, so they're not taking this fight for Surge. They really just want to push their way in and actually take this one if they can. This is Mania's team right now. This is going to mean a lot to Mania. This one of the more consistent players who's been playing in Fortnite OCE since pretty much the beginning of time, really trying to make a name for himself, has kind of gone more of the, I want to say the Marzo W route, Monster. My man has been grinding the arena points. I think he's pushing 200,000 these days, which with OCE's queue times to some time of the day being 5 to 10 minutes, honestly, so commendable. So I want to see him have a big performance, not just here today, but in FNCS to really kind of make that name that I know he's been striving for a really long time.
Yeah, that's a champion's mentality right there. If you can go through that, that's an uphill battle all the way. And not to mention, like you said, even if the queues are long, that means you have less opportunities to actually make those games worth it. So you have to do something big. Hey, he's here. And you know, we saw what happened with Mars, right? We saw what happened when one championship game, one big trophy, right, is all it takes for you to get that global recognition.
That's it. It really is. And then you can get the consistency. A lot of people have their different play styles. Everyone thinks it's all about scrims and creative. I mean, some of the best players in the world right now really are grinding out the arena. I'm thinking of Mikey6. See him doing his late night arena grinds all the time. I think he's pushing 200,000. One of the best players on NA East as well. You have Smacked, who has been smashing it out. So it really is a strategy that works well. It keeps you fresh and it lets you take those kind of more scuffed, less, I don't know, kind of less orchestrated engagements, I want to say, when you just don't have all the factors controlled. You just got to do what you can with what you have. And I think arena arena plays out really well for that as far as practice goes, as Jalen, Squeaks, and Zora are taking this very seriously right now. Set up down a little bit of the divot, which makes sense. They don't want to keep themselves too exposed right now. They don't need the Storm Surge damage, so I like them setting up on the low ground. That answers my question. How seriously is Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks taking this? Incredibly with that positioning.
Yeah, and they have a different mountain to climb. Repulse in the feed, though, with Tyrax, too. We asked what kind of game they're going to be playing. We already saw that they had the tags that they need to stay above the surge, and they're still going, still steamrolling. Say, hey, listen, you guys aren't going to fight. We're going to help you guys get there. We'll turn off the Storm Surge for you. But right now, it's active. 3 players above. Here's Tyrax, Forbes, and Repulse's perspective. Already at 6 elimination here. Rampaging their way through. Still on the same side of the map as well, that eastern portion.
Tyrax! Look at the loadout. We do have it. We have the big chill. Someone managed to get their hands on. I was questioning it. I think someone did manage to grab it. So not only do they have the firepower when it comes to the fights, they have what they need for the end game. I wonder how much attention Tyrax has been playing to the scene at large on how to use it effectively. But either way, my favorite weapon in the game right now, because it's always funny and it's in the hands of the team that's going to keep pushing. So now they have the firepower to close out these mid-game fights like this, and they have the firepower to guarantee they can get high ground end game if they use it effectively.
I almost feel like Repulse in the weeks leading up was just, holding back so much. Now you see they look sharper than ever, not throwing a single battle so far. Not that, but look, as a group, like 8 as a group, they've ran through at least 2 or 3 teams in bulk. That is ridiculous.
Of the 5 teams that have gone down, they've ran through 3 of the 5 teams that have so far been wiped out of this game in the first couple of minutes. So Tyrax's team going to be putting on a show. Repulse doing what we know Repulse can do best. And here we have another of our team that's been wiped out, a full trio. This is Toggle, Zwitty, and Fizz, who have their full wipe at Caddy Corners. Again, we've talked about it a few times. This is your Middle East, Southeast Asia. Everyone's been asking where they're from, and they mostly play on Middle East tournaments, but I believe they are situated in Southeast Asia, and obviously them not having their own servers, so having to play on OCE or Middle East, and looks like they've picked OCE, and with good reason. They're dominating.
Yeah, they're popping off. I was afraid that maybe they had the snowball launcher and it changed hands, but no,
that's what I
they're
thought.
Alive, and that makes me feel good. I'm rooting for these guys.
For sure. I mean, they definitely, I want to say the underdog story. They came top 5 yesterday, but they're at that innate disadvantage before the game even starts, and that always gives you that little bit of sympathy to want to cheer them on. But I did notice no shield on the inventory there, only white meds, which is scary. Talking of scary, Mech Man right now, you are not in the good spot, mate. Repulse has found you. You have to know it's them on the walls, and they are just walking in and walking through people. Timmy predicted it in the pre-show. He did mention that he was thinking potentially some 20 bombs on the board. I thought, okay, Repulse is good. Like Timmy said, he's one of the best in the world, and I have to agree, but I thought 20 bombs, a little bit generous. No, that's 9. That's 9 eliminations with 68 players still left.
Yeah, and he's fully capped off on the snowball launcher as well, as far as the rockets go there too. So, not even pulling out the big guns. Like, we're just watching him not miss a single shot between this team here. And he's rocking the charge, right? We talk about shotgun preferences and who likes to run what, but he's running with the hardest hitting weapon in the game.
Yeah, he is. He's running the hardest hitting weapon in the game, and that's what I can really see. When you can see someone who can W key and play aggressive with a charge, it really is a whole nother level of impressive for me, because you do have that slight delay on the shot. You don't have to always full charge it, but a lot of players who, aren't as adept to using it will struggle trying to W key with it. I myself can play quite defensive, but when you start trying to push between the boxes, go for the piece control, the quick edits, it's where you really have to be a proficient player, but that's what Repulse is to a T. He really is one of the best players, in my opinion, in the world. 4th place at DreamHack Anaheim, the first overseas event he has ever played, and he almost made a podium finish. That is next level impressive.
Yeah, for sure. That was really his breakout as far as getting that international respect from the other pros. I do remember it so clearly. Here, though, we got to get back to the action. We're talking about a road state here. Fizz, Toggle, Zwitty in the mid-section there. So many players housing up on top of them. Looks like Agent Chains is going to kick it off, though, with a Nunker and Grab. We got to see a lot of them in the weeks lead up. It seems like they're doing pretty okay. A little bit of consistency again, and most of these teams will just walk their way through, right? Get themselves to the heats.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything, if you just avoid Repulse's team right now, you're pretty much being guaranteed placement, because they are just going to be clearing out the lobby for you, taking out more and more teams to kind of bring those placement points up as Repulse has fallen. I said it last week. I love using it. Gods can bleed as he gets taken down by Spaghetti Soul, a player that I haven't heard too much about. Doesn't have the impact name of Repulse God, but has the impact shot, and that's all that matters. They've kind of put this one off, and if I know anything about Repulse, though, that's going to motivate him to key this team even harder, though.
Yeah, and that's what happens, you know, one wall goes down and all of a sudden you're left defenseless. The teams capitalize there, but it's okay. With how many teams they've already eliminated up until this point, they are so comfortable, like just the amount of splashes that their entire team is back like it never happened.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I don't know how Repulse got that big shot taken against him. I guess we talked about the charge. It does have that one-shot potential. You hold the angle. It is really, really good to play defensive with like that. And well played as Russian Kazi and Spy again. This is a team that Fallout was talking about actually performing really well last week. They came 11th in round 4 last week, Monster. So 1 place off that top 10 to qualify through. So unfortunate for them, they lost it on the tie break as well. They tied with points with Radius, Fluxy, and Slayer, losing the tie break with the Victory Royale. So I'm pretty sure they'll be sitting really good on series points, but I think this is a team that wants to show that they can make it through on top 10. They don't want to rely on consistency.
And that's why we really emphasize those Victory Royales, right? You have to pick them up here, though. A big exchange is going on between the two teams. Tyrax is going to get hit hard. Forbes is down. Tyrax is down. And now it's all into the hands of Repulse. What can he do as a solo individual? He's going to get one, I believe, somewhat of an exchange there, but no, he's left running by himself now.
Yeah, Repulse got to get out of this one. He did have the big chill, so maybe can do something with the end game. It's not exactly the best item to use defensively. It is more of an offensive item, and they got half zone, and that's where things come unstuck for this team. We know, kind of like we said, unhinged. They're keying everything, but I do want to make sure this team understands these kind of fights they're taking when it comes to heats and grand finals, because they are a go big or go home team. Repulse and Forbes last FNCS with a 12-game format, won day 2. They had such a dominant tear, but because of their inconsistency on day 1, they weren't able to take out the victory. So it's because of fights like that, that one extra fight they just don't need to push. As my prediction also gets the half on the high ground. Phenomenal position for the team that needs to do big things here today.
Yeah, and they're pressuring the team on Storm Surge as well. It's not looking good for Bridge and company. Bridge is going to fire back with a little sniper shot, but that's not going to be enough. Not when the lobby starts to focus here soon. And look, they break up into 2 packs. One going left, one going right. Greeks has got the marker out. Yep, and they knew that was a mistake in itself. They gotta get back with one another.
They got to get back to one another if they can try and do something. Storm Surge was kicking in there again. It's so crazy. You watch all these early game fights from OCE, and it looks like the entire lobby is just keying each other. But I'm pretty sure 90% of our games or more have gone to active Surge on half and even rotating zones, Monster. It's such a strange region with the pacing. I've been watching it for years, and I still can't really figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know how it happens. You know, maybe it just happens all so quick that the action, you know, just makes it feel like, you know, time moves slow for us, you know, and we still end up in the same place where we need to be ultimately. But I mean, it's exciting stuff, right? And we're still looking at a very exciting game here. I want to bring it back to Repulse just solo now, making that rotate. You can see he's the only individual moving. He's going to get into the middle of the pack. But listen, the 10 elims that they already had, that's 20-point game here, right? This is a massive game, even if they do not earn any placement points. What it just seems like, honestly, he's working his way to it.
Yeah, he's working his way towards it. I mean, with the big chill, he could potentially really upset high ground and make a big play for it. It'd be very hard to do as a solo, but if anyone's got the power to do it, it's probably Repulse. He's probably going to try and find a team that he can jump on right now to get that refresh. Only has 36 builds left inside the box, and no, he does fall just like that. Doesn't matter how good you are. If you end up in a bad position like that, up against the wall with the stare on your head, it really just comes down to who starts firing first. Unfortunately, it was not Repulse, but that means even better things for Jarl, Squeaks, and Zora, because that's the other scariest team in the lobby taken out, so they can have their big game and jump up like they need to.
Yeah, and it's really going to come down to whether or not Chemo picked that big chill up from Repulse there. We'll see if those shots start coming out. Remember, Repulse had 18 shots, 18 rockets. The thing comes fully loaded, so it will be huge opportunities for anyone to go to and upset high ground. That's one of the, I guess I would say, the only ingredient that can guarantee you to really upset high ground, right? It's that weapon there. Yep. And it's only accessible through very unique methods. So for this to even make it this far, it can cause huge upsets for high ground.
It really can, and like I said, game 2 of round 4 last week for NA East, Colazo managed to win a big game by taking height with it, as we have lost our Middle East contingent there. Zwitty, Fizz, and Toggle have fallen. Good game for them, decent points, but like I talked about earlier, this is the round 4 format. You need to get your eliminations, and you need to get that top 3. Top 3 is worth half the total placement points, so teams on high ground like Zorajal and Squeaks are looking very pretty, but it's also what eliminations can you get. They haven't got a single elimination since getting up here, Monster. That's the same one they got in the early game.
Yeah, for sure. Here's take a look at Squeaks, man. Yeah, you talked about one elam. It's so hard on high ground for squads to go in and find the angles, right? Because everyone's defensively playing, everyone's building, everyone knows high ground's going to continue to put that pressure. I was going to say, you need to come down, you need to take risk if you want those pickups, and they're doing that. That puts a lot of risk in their hold though.
It does. You really got to pick your angle as well. Usually it's that combo. Who's the best fighter? Who's going to drop down? Zora does just that. Instantly finds one elimination. That is a second one on the board, but at the same time, they're aiming for top 10. I imagine they might be aiming for higher. They're a new team. They need to make a statement, especially Zora and Jalen. The pressure's on them. They dropped Price, a phenomenally good player in OCE with a guaranteed qualification to play with Squeak. So they need to make a statement for why they did that today as Gek is dropping down to make a statement too. Grav has fallen. Gek doing big things as a solo as Kazi and Spy, our 11th place team from last week, not going to miss out here again today, trying to push forward into that top 3.
And it's so crucial to not fall here. Every team that falls now is placement being divvied out to other teams. Everyone wants these final moments to remember. It's the claw for top 3. Jalen Squeaks on high ground right now with Zora. They are chilling. They have nothing to worry about. Compact SMG, the perfect pressure you can see, and they have the bullets to do it. So they will be able to walk their way to victory. I don't see them throwing this, but everyone else, everyone on all these other layers, they need to stay alive. You don't want to be the ones in the mix right now. And second height, they have so much pressure coming on them now.
Yeah, not a lot of builds as Gek is still doing things down here with the epic tack right now. Chains comes around the wall. Gek's looking pretty low. 51, but doesn't need it. Gets the Siphon as well. The solos are down there. Zora dropping down on 68 combined health right now. Has to drop back. Has 0 builds. Gets those extra little mats. Nice movement from Zora there. Top 5. 2 more teams to go down. You don't want to be in these next 2 teams as Kazi starts to miss the shots. I want to say a little bit of a whiff there, unfortunately, as Nio Fab is down there. Jalen goes down. Squeaks is playing that heal off. Has to jump off the builds. Needs to go a little bit lower, but he can still go for this heal off. Has the 3 floppers. Goes back in his zone for a bit of the materials. I'm not sure about that play when he's going for the heal off. That's 1 flopper they really needed. 2 teams alive. 4 players. It's a 2v2 monster.
Yeah, and it was that rocket launcher, right? There's still an RPG in place, so he needed those materials, but now this is where things get real interesting. The big chill, the RPG, the bouncer up as well. They have so much firepower. Fab's gonna go down first. That's the biggest knock we could have asked for here, Aussie, and it should be a walk away, and it will be for the high ground team.
It will be for the high ground team. I asked it my prediction. I said they need to win here today. I wanted to go against the grain with the predictions. Squeaks, Zora, and Jalen need this more than any team. They have the firepower. They're a top caliber team, but I knew they needed to perform, so they'd be trying the hardest for it. And just like that, they win the game. But I want to kind of put a little bit of a teaser in there. They did get high ground on half-half monster. We know that's a recipe for success. Can they put it together in future games without being gifted that zone?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, they took a lot of risk in those final moments. Jalen going down first was the first sign of a bit of a miscommunication there or something, right? He somehow ended up in a 1v1 toe-to-toe. You don't want that on those mid-ground layers. You should have high ground supporting you. So again, they win the game, which is fantastic, but tidy it up, and we'll see them in those final stages. Remember, they need the top 10 here, Aussie.
They need that top 10 as well. And that was a big first game to do it, but that takes the pressure off a little bit. Maybe they can relax. Maybe that was a little bit of that first kind of game jitters. We'll have to see if the analysts agree. Again, I'm going to kind of have that little pride moment. I did tell you so, Timmy Fallout, but maybe you guys can see what happened with Repulse. Maybe you guys are going to change your name. I don't know.
Thanks so much, Aussie. You actually took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually going to rub in the salt a little bit to these guys and be like, you know what? Aussie has done it again. Our golden child has managed to successfully predict who has won that round 1. But it's too soon. We've got 5 more games ahead. But again, the boys just showed, once given that high ground advantage, just how well they can play with it. But I was interested to see, I mean, Timmy, let's start with you. If things went different, I mean, what kind of happened with Repulse and his squad?
Well, I think it goes to show how you can be too aggressive at the wrong times. One thing that I have always taught players is that you should stop W-keying, stop looking for kills after after 4th zone, because at that stage there is just too many people around you for third-party potential. What do you think, Fallout?
Yeah, I completely agree. Aggression early game is perfect. Aggression mid game is still great, and you can take third parties especially. And you see it here. This is going to turn into a running montage of Repulse and Co. They're able to still get 10 points, so that aggression did pay off for them. But once you get to that late game, if you are using too many mats, if you're too aggressive in that late game, you can find yourself in a pretty rough situation. You can be the one getting third party, and that's what happened to them. Especially given that they lost one of their team members because of that aggression early on with Tyrex getting taken out.
Yeah, we actually didn't catch it, but Tyrex was lost early, and it was down to Repulse and Forbes to 2v3. One of the better teams in the lobby was Seiko, M1, and Baffle. We just missed it on broadcast. So the fact that they're able to 2v3 that team, and like Fallout said, it's just a running montage of just how good these guys are in comparison. But the issue is taking these fights here. These fights here are far too congested. There's just too many people around you. You should not be taking these fights. You're gonna end up getting third party down.
That's right, and that's where you saw Tyrex did get taken out. In the end, we did not see them in the late game, but they still did get 10 elims. That's 20 points. That won't put them too far behind Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks in first as you see them clean up. This is one thing I want to call out was Gek. He was the Cinderella story alongside Sinner and Fallen last qualifier. I gave them a lot of hype and a lot of love, and Gek did it again right there. What a hero play from him. Last alive for his team. He pops off and gets 3 or 4 elims and about 8 points additional for his squad in a top 4 finish. So big kudos and shout out to them. They've been my team to watch, and I've been excited to watch that squad from both last qualifier into this one.
I feel like for this first game, it felt almost as though eliminations versus placement, right? But of course, it's too early to really see how this is going. Anyway, let's take a look at the standings of that first game and how everything kind of broke down. But we do know, standings unfortunately will still be populated, but we'll get them to you as soon as we can. But I mean, do you kind of agree with that, Timmy, in terms of that game felt like it was 2 different games being played? One team was kind of going for those elimination points. One team was like, let's just play the way we know, let's play for placement.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when you talk about playing for placement, we saw Squeaks, Jalen, and Zora playing relatively passive through mid-game, playing really good positions, and then looking to take high to half-half. I'm not too sure. They actually didn't pull high to half-half. They came across and took it. They alphaed it up. They made sure they were the ones on that position. So they played that passive game all the way through, whereas we saw, like you said, Repulse play that really aggressive game, and it's going to continue to be that way, and I can't wait to see what happens in Game 2.
Well, you don't have to wait any longer because match number 2 is just about to kick off. So let's throw it back to Aussie Antics and Monster to take us through match number 2.
Thank you, Vandy, and thank you guys. Apparently, I sold my own prediction short. I guess they did. They made the play for high ground. They took it. Thank you, Timmy, for letting us know, because that gives me a lot more confidence coming into game number 2 now, Monster. That means they had the dominant performance they needed to. Everything clicked.
Yeah, I mean, we proposition it the way we did on purpose, right? You have to take these things into consideration. Were you granted everything you needed to win the game and then you won the game, or did you fight for it and make that your favorable game to win? And that's what they did. That's even more exciting now.
It's way more exciting now, and it shows they've got all those pieces together kind of coming into this one. Unless something changes massively, unless they get contested, I think things will be looking pretty for them. Again, you got to worry about those teams. I don't think Repulse is going to not key Squeaks' team. I don't think they're worrying about seeing who a team is before they instantly all rush in. I think they're just pushing any fight they can. Zora's team coming from a different portion of the map should keep them a little bit safer, but already with one more win, they could really do it.
Yeah, for sure. But here it is. We're teeing up the next game now, Oz. We're hopping right back onto this battle bus.
Right back onto the battle bus. Game number 2. This is it. This is when you've really got to start stepping up. Your last chance to qualify. Shooting in with a team we haven't watched too much about. Fighting over a drop spot we also haven't seen that much about. Risky Reels, and that's a really good first chest pull. We've got the legendary heavy assault rifle and the 2 splashes off the rip. And right now, Getty's going to try and put that to work. Instantly does. And that's a player taken out straight.
You connect, right? One headshot, body shot, it's over. That's it. You're done. You're out of the lobby. You're getting taken out. These early instances where no one has the window of time to really pop the heals unless you get chug splashes. That's a perfect situation to be in. Now, again, the bigger picture here. They have the advantage of the drop spot. They should be able to walk away with this. I forget how important those siphon mats are. But he's down a member too. So this is very much a back and forth now between the team here.
Yeah, back and forwards. It's an interesting fight. You kind of have these little areas you set up on the edges, and then no man's land in the middle, as right now Getty knows where this player is around the corner. Gonna grab something here and does find the shotgun. That is massive to engage this fight. That was so lucky. Maybe saw that from a distance, but never mind. Getty put on the back foot so quickly here. Has the medkit, has the splashes. Might need to opt to use the splashes first, and no, the teammate assistance comes out right there. Kafuski comes through and wraps this one up as we have another fight breaking down over the orchard. Again, we're seeing some really interesting spots to have these fights. They're kind of the main drops of bigger loot paths, Monster, where normally you'd have one team drop here. You kind of have like spread out a little bit and get the loot, but I think these teams are trying to claim that loot for themselves, so they're fighting with pretty shambles loadouts.
Yeah, and if you look at the risky team in particular, they came into this with 0 points, so they didn't win the drop in the previous run. They won game 2. This is those kind of back and forth draw spot contestants we're going to see throughout the course of the day. Even this squad here, if they were landing here and this fight was carried on from game 1 and now into game 2, they didn't win the game 1 engagement, and now they're getting forced out of the game 2 engagement as well. You can just tell just by the point difference, right? Jamal in trio inside had 9 points. Mania here had 2 points. We saw them later into the game, right? They made it to that Weeping Woods rotate in game 1, but it just shows that they're not having a good time at this drop.
No, they're not having a good time in this drop. But if I had to pick Mania for any weakness right now as a player, that's always going to be it. Playing a little bit too passive, not leaning on that skill that he has as a fighter that he's been developing from playing Arena. As much as, like I said, I've seen Mania's mechanics improve so much over this last season, but he still kind of diverts back to that old mentality of let's not take this fight, let's try and go dead side, let's try and rotate around the teams, let's avoid them. With 2 eliminations on the board for offer right now, they've got a good loadout. This is an epic assault rifle, splashes, green tack, they have their shotguns. They can win this fight. They need to be comfortable to take it.
Yeah, they got to get confident here, especially. Mania's going to be the first one. You talk about his defensive nature. He bases up first, forces his team back to him, expending more material. These are all little things. They're going to mix it up. Toggle's going to fall in the feed there. Keep an eye out on him. We know they were exciting to keep an eye out in the last round. But here, look, Jamal's trio fully healthy now. Not getting damaged very much in this battle until here, where the exchange is real. It's a 1-for-1. But even then, Mania now clutches up. He gets the Siphon to stay alive just long enough here. Is it going to be enough? Good punishment shot. No, couldn't finish.
It was close. There was a big splitting shot, but maybe right now this could be one. We could still see something here. We have the green tack, epic assault rifle, 3 med kits. I'm trying to grab one of those off the Jamal and Kyoto. I don't know about giving this more time though. I know you want to get the med kit off, but that you're in a 1v2. I feel like you got to push that advantage and try and make something of this because now they've healed up as well. They have the material. It's going to be a big swing back. The spray coming out, 77 health. Things are not looking good for Mania's team here. Got to drop back down. Goes for the edit. Tries to go for the big one-on-one. And honestly, I like that strategy. When you're in a 2v1 situation, you have to play aggressive. You have to take your ones when you can get them. But unfortunately, it is going to be Jamal, Kyoto, and Kilo. And they don't really have a reboot there, though. They have the reboot at Coliseum, but things aren't looking as good as now we have Tekmar's team at Retail, a team that I have a lot of hope for to do well here. Shocker's gone down. What can Tekmar and Midnight do?
Yeah, Tekmar still being up, though. Barely in HP. Is going to get hit one more time as Midnight now. The pressure's on his shoulders. The clutch needs to be on his back here. Snow, not big health advantage, but high ground's going to be enough to give him all the angles he's looking for. His teammate results in the process, though. Also gets punished big time, and that might be a takeout, but no. Results actually clutches up and takes out Tekmar there and Midnight.
Yeah, it's our GLM boys. One of the only teams, I think actually the only team that is literally a full trio signed to an org here for OCE. So we have our XF boys, we have our GLM boys here in OCE, and they managed to win Retail and feel bad there. Tekmar, not only one of the better players in OCE, also one of the better content creators, one of the more wholesome guys. I'm cheering him on here. I'm a big fan. I hope he can bring it back together. I think he'll be making it off consistency, but I want to see them have a big round 4 here.
Yeah, definitely. Remember, this carries into the heats. It carries into how your finals going to play out. These performances where they may not feel like much sometimes, right, for the players because they know they might make it a heats, it still does carry so much more, right? The ramifications of not performing means that players won't respect you as much. It'll be tougher later on. Toggle, though, who was finished off, it seems like he was picked up here at the drop spot at Caddy, so somehow they're back at it.
They're back at it. Yeah, I don't know. Was that a finish or was that a knock? I saw it on the feed as an elimination as well. Maybe the reboot. Yeah. He's got the great pistol, so it suits. It makes sense. They managed to get the reboot off here. So Caddy Corners, this is looking a lot like NA East. This is just, for something about this drop spot, the fights always drag on for the longest time. I guess because it's decent material you can get quickly. Teams can kind of rat their way around these bases and base up, but more than any other drop, do I see these fights never go to build battles. It's always these kind of box fights, and I love to watch them, though.
Yeah, it always ends up back in this facility here, right? Like chest to chest. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around how does Toggle have all this ammunition? Like, what? You get rebooted, but somehow he still has all the loot in the world. They must have the perfect drop of that weather station. All the chests must have spawned. It seems like this is a recipe for success. It's only a 2-man team for Faulty, right?
Yeah, but I'm looking at the distance monster. I don't think it's going to matter for long. I saw Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax on the minimap. I saw them in the distance. The teams are running the other way. I don't know if they've seen them as well. Maybe Toggle, Fizz, and Zwitty got a heads up they were coming. I don't know, but they are getting out of town really quickly. And unfortunately, Faulty's left behind. Repulse sees them in the distance. They see a team disengaging, but Repulse knows there's a team still inside here somewhere, and he's going to find them.
Yeah, I like how he looks off. He says, oh, you guys are running away? Bet this is our prey now. There, he's in it. He's in the box now. Goes for the piece control. Okay, the 88 punishment. But the first exchange there is good for Faulty. Gets the thirst too. No shields on the team. Not enough, though. Tyrax comes in. Forbes comes in. They finish this up.
Oh, but I like this, though. We see Toggle and Zwitty pushing back down from the mounds. They saw the feed. They know that was an exchange where Repulse went down. They are weakened. This is going to be an interesting fight now. It's a 2v3. Zwitty's team's been holding their own in these fights. They have the numbers advantage, but is that going to be enough to take down Forbes and Tyrax? Repulse has gone down. The big firepower on this team, but like Timmy said, you can't count Forbes out. Held in many people's regard to be the best controller player in OCE. So can he put up the fight here? Tyrax actually setting up for the reboot. I don't know if he'll get that off, but I like the attempt as well.
Yeah, it's just back and forth here and there. You see, Repulse is up, so he managed to pull that off even after the pressure that came in. I think Toggle and company are going to look to back off now. There's no reason to take this fight, not when they have all the firepower back in the lobby here. Yeah, and they see it. They see the same exact thing. Look at this build here. That looked like an end game skeleton, if you will, right? This is just crazy for early game.
It's like the panning shot we see at the end of every good end game. But you talked about it too, though, Monster, right? Like, make it a statement. We talked about needing to do that with Tekma. If that's another team there, you push that. It's a 2v3. You get in. You don't care about the reboot, but they knew that was Repulse's team, and that's why they disengaged. Making statements and building reputations is so important in the long run for success in competitive, because when it comes to job spots and just any gameplay in general, it makes teams think twice, it makes them panic, and it makes them base decisions on your reputation.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And look at the feed. If you look at the map here, Kyoto, Jamal, Fishy, seems like they're going to play the Storm to get that reboot off. They're really trying to do this super cheeky, but I think that Coliseum team's got eyes on the northern portion. They're looking inward. On the map, though, Mech Man's going to find himself something here. Nice, not too bad, especially being a man down. Violet on the other side, also a man down, has to work with it. 5 elims for Violet's trio. Not bad at all. That's massive points here.
That's massive points. The eliminations have really put you up there. 2 points per elimination. When we talked about it, top 3 is what you're really aiming for when it comes to placement. If you can, get a few of those eliminations early on, that saves you an entire rotating zone or more. As Spy, Russian, and Kazi are pushing in on this one, they know they have the 3v2 advantage. Zwitty, Toggle, and Fizz in the distance. They just seem to always be where the action's at. I don't think it's deliberate at all. I think it was a normal rotation. Looks like they're happy to avoid this one, as right now Spy's team is aggressively pushing and kind of faked them out here. They made it to the main building, and lazy Spy didn't know. Spy spent that extra time now kind of scoping out this canoe house building, so that'll give them time to set up in main building, but I don't know if time's going to be what they need. There's not going to be much loot left in there.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's all about the resources. Is it worth the investment? And now you can see, hey, they're going to go all the way here. This is for the points. This is for all the marbles in the basket here. Trying to get those top spots is what these guys are fighting for. But again, we talk about teams that just don't feel like they have the pressure like some of the others on their shoulders, and that's why the fighting's okay for them. They can do these kind of battles. They can take these kind of risks in this week.
Yeah, they can take these battles if they need to as well. They came 11th, so they know they were so close to doing it last week. With some of the players being out of it this week, it shouldn't be too scary to try and do the same thing here, as they're going to keep pushing, though, and they need to rotate this way anyway, so they're not wasting too much time for it. But right now, Sanjog has no material. One player down, doesn't have any spare meds except for that slow fish, and this is it. This is your chance. Do you take the shots now? The snipe misses. They go for the front player on Frog. I don't think they actually saw that Sanjog was down below, and I think they've caught him. Now you've got to stop and fight. You can't keep running. Box up. Let's see what you can do when it comes toe-to-toe.
Yeah, and the punishment now, teams on the mountain as well is going to put a little bit of a pause here. Red light for Russian. He's going to have to stop. Heal. This is a full trio as well. The TP boys coming in. Kazi and Spy here. All split up now, trying to figure out what's the next move. Russian steps in to support him. All right. Now, Aussie. They're looking like they had to slow themselves down.
They had to slow themselves down here. They couldn't just keep pushing straight forward into this one. They needed to do something because now the third parties are there. This is what we talked about. Fallout talked about it before with Repulse's team. You can take your early game fights, you can third party your mid game fights, but if you play too aggressive on your end game fights, that's where you get punished. Even this from Tyrax, Repulse, and Forbes. I need to point this out. They're not just mindlessly keying everybody. They've taken this fight to what we would definitely call dead side, right, Monster? We're up on the mountain. There is literally only, what, 30 feet, 20 meters of zone between here and the edge. There are not going to be many teams here. So if they take a fight here, they've minimized that chance that another team pushes them and plays aggressively. But the more they come around this northern side, that's when they're going to peek over that hill and run into a lot more teams around retail. So they're losing their chance to take a fight soon. And I want to see, do they hold back or do they push that one fight too many?
I mean, but I like that. I like that more than what they did in the previous game, white lining their way, like warpathing their way straight to the new zone where they got pinched out, taken out by all the other pressures. So we'll see. They're going to that northern portion, like you said, and there were several teams up there. Again, it can quickly go from dead side to just the teams that are rotating in, white lining their way to the new zone. So that's the thing about Fortnite, right? This thing about all these zones in particular. This is why, analysts and these high tier brains, right, like to pick their minds into these games and these situations. You can look at them in all kinds of different ways. And here it is. This is that fight we're talking about. And they do manage to find an isolated one. And my gosh, they wrap it up so quickly.
That's it. If you're going to play aggressive, you need some full senders. When you see teams that want to play aggressive, but they're quite not there and they push and they back up, you've got to go all in. If you're going to take these fights and you're on edge zone, where if you look at the map, they are very edge zone, you need to take it quickly. But we talk about it, right? Analysts love breaking this down. I love looking at it. The path they just followed, they now know is clear. So they know they can rotate back around that edge, around that mountain, and there is guaranteed no team there. And if you look at the map, we can see all these teams kind of centralized around caddy corners, near Lazy Lake, between the zone, makes things a lot more difficult to try and make your way that way. But Repulse's team, they have a clear line straight back into zone. They've done this very deliberately. They're not just mindless W keyers. They play aggressive, but it is with a purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Those outskirts battles are so good to take, especially when you're at a caliber of them, right? And like you mentioned, it's all that information they gather. They're on the map. You can see them on the outermost area. They're going right back the way they came. They're going to lolly their way right back on for free, get to the new safety, and be okay for the end game to set themselves up. On the other side, though, these are teams that are in a world of different situations, right? A world of trouble. I'm looking at 2 or 3 squads based up on top of one another, all of which seem like they have no mobility to take a move out. That vehicle's already gone. Those guys are done. They're out of this. So everyone here is on a ground rotate.
Everyone's on the ground rotate. They're trying to make their way back around here. And right now, we still got 71 players alive. There's 25 teams in this. It's looking pretty stacked, even though we've had all these early game engagements. So this edge is about to get really contested. And these end games are my favorite monster. Not my favorite for the players. If I was a player and I was in this lobby, I would be dreading it. But to watch it, I love these mountain zones, these southeast zones around the river. You have the potential for up a mountain, down a mountain, over a mountain, into the water, back up, out of the water. There's so many exciting things that can happen with zones like this, and with this zone pulling right up touch with that water, there's a good chance we get the rotating zones going out there as well.
Yeah, for sure. And look at this. Here's the team getting taken out. Elusive now by himself has to clutch up. It's Lucas on the other side with Thrusty and Absol. They're putting in the big pressure here. Haven't got the full thirst. There it is. Finally, things are going to start trickling over, but there's so many other teams. BMP, Rip, and Kripa can see what's happening inside of this as well. Seems like they've gotten their fair share of this. But it's about who can acquire the loot. Kripa only has 63 builds, right? They didn't get to pick up any of the spoils here from the fight.
Yeah, there's not a lot of refarmable loot. In endgame, it's always hard to farm your loot in these positions, but around these mountains, it's even more difficult. Rip's got that Mandalorian sniper rifle. Looks pretty good there. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with it, but unfortunately, I would be rather than a lot of other things in my inventory coming into endgames like this. They've got the bouncers, and that's what's going to be crucial. When you have these big mountain endgames, having the ability to bounce off the mountains or potentially bounce up the mountains does lend you a lot of utility. So we'll see how they can play this one out. They can maybe refarm the building a little bit here, try and get that material back, but this is going to be one of the most congested edges you've ever seen. I mean, you can see it on the map right now. Look at all the teams clustered on this western edge. Almost no one is on the east, which means if zone goes there, everyone's going to have to rotate.
Yeah, it's already pulled that way, so the likelihood now is like, hey, if you can't get to that mountain peak soon, then it's all over. Because if you commit, I would say, if you commit down the mountain, you're going to have a world of trouble if it pulls up, and that'll just be your luck, right? That'll just be your luck of the day. We see so many social media tweets about, you know, those kind of odd instances that happen. And that is the kind of situation. These are the decisions you have to make and live with now. But everyone is going to stack on top of one another, most likely than not. You can see repost, they got here early. They're already inside. We knew that they had the clean path on down, and it seems like it's paying off perfectly for them.
Yeah, things are paying off really well for them. They played it well, and there's not what we're used to seeing. Last game, we saw Repulse lead the charge with the 7 eliminations. Now he's got 0 on the board. It's coming down to Forbes and Tyrax. They're spraying this team down, trying to get them down, trying to keep that aggression going. But again, smart aggression. They're based up in full brick hard match. They have a big tunnel, and they're trying to triple spray a team down so they can just kind of single one out. They're not just pushing into boxes for no reason, as Toggles, Witty, and Fizz need to have a big game here. They had a decent game one with those early eliminations, but they kind of went down in that end game. Let's see what they can do and if they can play this one as consistently.
Yeah, what I'm just thinking about, like, you know, Forbes, Tyrax, and Repulse, they have about 900 ammo each. Like, I'm thinking you could just push everyone off your lane if you really wanted to. Here, though, here's a team that's under the surge. We're actually 14 above as far as players that have to go down. This ain't big surge. All of a sudden, things really start to teeter into the other direction. We had a decent 1 and 2 zones pacing where it needed to be, but this has really changed the scale of balance.
This is stalemated out a lot of them. You talked about them, Monster. Those teams that are around that lower end. We're talking those Div 2, kind of Tier 2 and lower players. We've talked about it. They play a bit safe. They don't have the confidence coming into these lobbies. They try to avoid the fights until it's too late. But Toggles, Witty, and Fizz showing they kind of have that competitive prowess. They knew how to find that angle and get that really easy elimination through the floor. Fizz got shot back pretty heavy, but right now there's no third-party potential because they're playing it low. They're playing through all those existing builds, and they're cutting the sight lines. They're not just pushing out into the open where the whole lobby can see them, as unfortunately, though, the teammate backs it up, edits out the wall, and gets a big shot on Zwitty, so they've got to back up. They got their knock, and no elimination. They lost a lot of meds for that.
Yeah, but you know what? Patience is what's going to pay off for them there, and that's why they have to slow it down. And either way, they're not happy about the not finishing it off and not getting that refresher.
Not getting that refresher as right now they know the active surge. Someone's getting ticked around them. Me Sports team above them. I think that's the team that is getting hit by surge, or at least they're on top of Tuckle's team that is getting hit there. Ice is there as well. Zwitty looking pretty weak. Repulse is bouncing through, and this zone is a brutal one, Monster. Not only is it across the mountains, it's complete opposite for this entire lobby, but Repulse's team still going to fight their way there. They're not going to rotate over. This is when they're going to take their fights, and if you play these fights well, this is when you can really rack up the eliminations.
Yeah, this is scary too. A team that doesn't want to fight their way onto their own tarp, right? They want your tarp. They want you to do the building for them. And they have to, though, right? Look at their maps. They kind of have to be this bully in a sense in this situation. They need to refresh all these maps. They can recycle them while they can.
Yeah, they need to recycle them, do what they can. And yeah, you talked about it. It's those teams that are confident enough to bully into your tarp that really do have, it's a strategy that works incredibly well. It saves material, it pressures teams off, you get surge, you can sometimes pick up eliminations. As long as you're playing it well, it's what Centered Edgy Commandments team does very well in NA East, especially on the low ground, just bullying their way through other teams' tarps when you're running low on the material to have the confidence to go for that reset. Everyone's trying to play shambles. Sometimes you have to make that big aggressive play. Zayt said it best. Do I have the loot that I need to win the game? No, then take a fight. Don't just play shambles to the very last minute.
Yeah, for sure. Here's Fishy, though. He's going to find himself a nice refresher on the way in. And now he's at 4 elims. So you can tell just by the chaos of the way the elevations changed it, it was a struggle for him to even get to his teammates. And now the best teams, the ones that are with one another, are going to be the happiest at this point here. It's already gone up and over this kind of ditch here, and now everyone's elevated up in the air. No one wants to come down. The zone says, hey, you have to come down. Those sky bases, no more. Come on down here. And it's going to come down to the coast here now, Aussie. What a sad end game for the pro players to be in. This is so tough to be in.
So tough to be in, but all credit to OCE and their ability to rotate right now. We have not got a single placement point yet, Monster. No placement has gone out on mountain zones, on rotates, across mountains, down coastlines. This is basically as far as the zone can potentially go away. As we have teams hitting zip lines. They're doing everything they can, and I think that's a testament to how weak they are now, Monster. They've made it this far. They've gone through their material. Everyone we tune into, Repulse now, everyone's in like 30 or less builds right now. They've gone through everything. They're on their last dregs, but Repulse getting the refreshes that he needs, picking up the eliminations, wiping them on the edge, using that bouncer to just bounce across the layers. I said it. Players don't like playing these end games, but man, do I love watching them.
Yeah, listen, and Repulse is doing it just right. He has the bounces, everything he needs, and the fish as well to stay behind the zone here. But no, that compact is going to do a lot of damage. They're going to see the white. That's blood in the water here for teams. RPG's coming in as well. That's the target, and he knows he can't stay here for much long if he wants to make it all the way through. He has to continue. And look at the layer changes. He does not want to go down to low ground. He wants to maintain a bit of this height here. He decides that this is the place to be. But everyone's doing that too. It is just carnage on these layers.
And we're running into a lot of solos, a lot of duos now. Everyone's pretty shambles. If you can survive for the next 30 seconds, you're going to rack up so many placement points. Only 4 being divvied out. We're still in 14 teams alive. So many solos. Russian goes down to Repulse. Can he get the finish? He does. That's just a few extra points. Gets the placement for it as well. Potentially, if someone falls, and no, Repulse's team going down in 13th. The team that I haven't seen, though, I don't know where Zorajal and Squeaks are. I have to imagine they're not in this. They've been lost in the fray. As M1, Baffle, and Seiko are on the high ground, in the perfect position to just get the most free win of their careers, Monster.
Yeah, no doubt. And because it's going back up the mountain now, right? So if you have high ground, you have everything. This lobby should be, again, dwindling itself down, right? It'll just cut itself down little by little. All the fat will be chopped right off of this one right here. And you can see Baffle just using anything in the tank here. No AR ammo, down to the just the pistol, right? He's putting it to good work.
Hey, he's got the 150 ammo right now. It's just pressure. I don't think any of these teams have the materials to get up here. Sundown always says it every time you get one of these zones. It's ingrained in my brain. Old Man Mountain will take his toll, and that's exactly what's happening. All these players, they have nothing left. They're fighting on low. They're just scrambling for any points that they can get, as M1's team is guaranteed to be victorious here. There is no way Reckless can make it up, and that's a good performance. At 4 elimination victory out, that is big points. That is 38 of their 40 points, Monster. They had a rough game 1 and a huge game 2.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You saw the night and day difference of Victor Royale, how far it can jump you up. Repulse's team in particular had 9 elims that game. They ended at 43 points, not picking up any placement, but pop-off games enough to carry them out. But a victory is enough to make up for any bad game.
Yeah, exactly. You have one bad game, game 2s where you have to back it up. And right now, if they get one more good win under their belt, we've seen teams make top 10. It's usually around that 80-point mark on 2 good wins. So they are well and truly on pace. But again, are you going to get a zone like that? They had the high ground. Don't want to take it away from them. They played phenomenally well to hold it. But that is a very, very kind of sketchy endgame. What happens if we get a vanilla zone? Can you set up for that same recipe for success? They played phenomenally well, but I want to know what happened to Zorajal and the Squeaks. They weren't in there. Our team that needs to come top 10, that got the victory last game, I didn't see them even inside the top 50.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, listen, who better to break it down than the analysts themselves, right? We got Timmy, Vandy, and Fall on the other side there to bring it for us.
Thanks so much, Monster. It's Baffle season as far as I can see. And Timmy, of course, may have encouraged me to say that, but it reigns true. And this squad, I mean, the reason why they were able to achieve such success was because this was a bit of a different zone. This game, we saw it go all the way to the bottom right, where the mountains were. And how does this actually affect the playstyle, Timmy? Like, talk us through this. Break it down for us.
It's extremely influential. You got to think about, if you're going to a zone that pulls all the way to one side anyway, you're going to have a lot of congestion in one area, especially in a mountain zone where you can either play the dead side and get onto a really, really disadvantageous place down on the bottom of the mountain, or you can play towards the congestion and sit up the top left side of zone. So you either choose to play towards the congested side and potentially forced into fights, or you can give up the advantage and play the dead side. So what you're going to see is a lot of proactive teams who set up and rotate early that get rewarded for that.
Yeah, that's right. And I love you talking about that. One thing that we were chatting about during the game right there is that was honestly just one of the most brutal late games we've seen in terms of verticality. And we talked a lot about vertical awareness, right? And one idea you kind of had in thought process is assign a role to your team. Just like you have an IGL, who's typically the one that's tarping, so it shouldn't be this person, but assign a vertical role, someone who's simply focused on the verticality of the late game and how to play that late game, making calls and helping people realize, okay, we need to play for high earlier. I love that. I love role-based assignments and team-based games, especially in Fortnite. I love that idea. As we take a look here at the highlights, we'll see Forbes and Co. doing Forbes and Co. things and absolutely running through teams. There was a moment there where you thought they were going to get third party by Zwitty and them, but they decided wisely not to take the fight.
Yeah, and again, coming back to the verticality here, you can see why it becomes an issue, as we've got half of the zone up the biggest mountain in the game, and we got the other half down by sea level. So the amount of verticality involved here as Repulse just decides to go demon mode is really what influenced the winners of the game here. So Baffle, as Vandy said, it is Baffle season as he takes the dub with M1 and Seiko. Baffle obviously is the IGL of this team, and he had the ability to make sure that they got up quickly. They weren't stuck on those really congested lower levels where everyone else was fighting. And Baffle season, I guess.
Have to wait and see whether they can continue this, because I feel as though they played well into the zone, but we're not always going to be given such scenarios, right? But it's definitely food for thought that the players and hopefully the viewers at home can keep in mind, because as you said, it's one of those more unique zones. So I love the breakdown from you too. We should have our updated standings ready to go as well, and I'll get you Fallout to go through them once they're on screen. But, I mean, no big surprises in terms of we still got our eyes on Zora's squad. We still have our eyes on Repulse's squad, right?
That's true, but they're not found in the top 5, or at least Repulse's team. Zora and Co, of course, are there. And guess what? They're in 6. Spoiler alert. But Neo, Fab, and Chemo currently atop the leaderboards by quite a bit. They're actually up 20 points over the third place team. Sinner, Fallen, and Gek in second place. That's the team I gave a lot of hype to. It's kind of a dark horse team that we didn't know a whole lot about qualifier number 2. They're performing well and consistent again in qualifier 3. So keep an eye out for these guys. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from them. Zora, Squeaks and Jalen in 4th place. And of course, we have Russian, Kazi, and Spy, who we talked about. Let's keep flipping through here, Timmy, as we see Repulse and Co in 6th place overall, I believe.
Yep, Repulse and Co in 6th, which is exactly what you like to see. And there we see Baffle Season 8th there for that team. Absol, Lucas, and Thrusty in 7th. Cripper, Rip, and BMP in 9th. And then rounding out our top 10 in the automatic qualifiers, Bluesy, Lazy, and Reckless, who were actually one of the most consistent teams in the qualifying round. So I'm talking opens, quarters, and then not semis. Unfortunately, they had a few struggles there, but I'm really happy to see those guys in the top 10. But I think coming back to the people who are in first, it's going to be interesting to see how Chemo, Neo, and Fab continue on, because they've actually sort of gained a bit of notoriety in the region for how good they are at Cash Cups. They're a really good W King trio. We actually saw them take out Squeaks' trio there, which is how we lost Jarlin and Zora. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go, continuing on into these last few games here.
Yeah, I'm impressed. They have quite the lead as well. I believe we have a few more pages of standings as well. So we'll take a look at 11th through 15th place. It's going to be Doom, Ryza, and Cyrix, a team that was tied for the most top 5 finishes in our round 3. That was 5 top 5 finishes from them. They were tied alongside GLM, Result, Snow, Prex, and then, of course, Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrex. So keep an eye out for them. Currently in 11th, but they'll be working their way up. Taker, LZ, QM, and WPuck, a team that is qualified, I believe, for every qualifier. This is the third 3 for 3. Certainly a team that will make it through with series points most likely, but if they do not get top 10 here, but I'm excited to see what they can do. And then in 14th is the last team I'll kind of call out on this page before we jump to our last page. It's Fizz, Toggle, and Zwitty, our Middle East team. So really, really big shout out to them, and kudos to them qualifying for 3 for 3 qualifiers and currently in the top 15 as well, as we take a look at our last page, Timmy.
Yep, and rounding out there, it's going to be really interesting to see if any of these guys can make a play for the top 10, and like I said, automatic qualifying. One team I'd like to point out here, Bridge, Queeksy, and Lupius. We've actually got a couple of really, really good players on that team, so I'd like to see if they can make a leap. Me Sports, Soul, and Ice, unfortunately on the receiving end of Repulse 2 games in a row, to see if they can look to avoid those guys in this coming game. And then Results, Snow, and Pricks, the guys who actually qualified in second, looking to make a bit of a leap up in the coming games.
There's still plenty of games coming up where we can start to see the leaderboard shift up a little bit. We've only done 2 rounds, and of course there's 4 rounds yet to come, so plenty more time. But I, for one, was really excited to see something a little bit different in terms of the end zone, and I'm kind of wondering if that's going to set the tone for the rest of the day. I don't think it will, but one can kind of hope, right?
Yeah, that's true. I hope we see a variety of end zones. Obviously, Ozzy hit the nail on the head. It's fun to see from a casting and observing perspective, ridiculously vertical end zones, but not the most fun to play in. So I'm personally a fan. I'm a man of the players, clearly. I'm a fan of a lot more flat end zone games where we'll see what we see in the late game here. But I like the standings. I like where we're at right now. Sinner, Fallen, and Gek. I've been talking about them a lot, but keep an eye out for them. I like the fact that we don't really see the top 2, top 3 teams as the ones we necessarily called out, Vandy.
Well, I don't like to keep you guys waiting, because match number 3 is right around the corner. So let's check in back with our casters, Aussie Antics and Monster, to take us through, and let's see how the rest of the day progresses.
Thank you so much, Vandy. Yes, Fallout being a man of the people, but no, I want my entertainment. I now want a water zone. I want even some of the sand zones. Like, I don't know. I love the exciting zones at the same time, but it's breaking it up. It's getting this kind of big polarized end games where we have teams like did last game that can kind of pop off and have their big victory royale to really jump them up on the leaderboard.
Yeah, no doubt there. And then you're right. I mean, but I think the story is still true, though. We talked about, in particular, Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks needing to stay up at the top. They did just enough to be at 46 points, but the big gap, the big lead, I'd say, that they kind of built for themselves. They now put themselves with that, I'd say, middling performance in game 2. They weren't in those final zones. Just the Elims alone kind of carried them up. It sets them back. It puts them back in the pressure seat.
There you got the pressure seat there as well. They want to have their big performance, and you've really got no excuses right now for either of these teams. They're both uncontested. Repulse's team out of Misty uncontested, Zora's team out of Sweaty uncontested, and I say uncontested, but I'm seeing some markers, but I think that might be the NPCs because I'm almost positive they're uncontested, but they went down 28th place last game, so something happens.
Yeah, going down early is never a good sign, obviously, in the tournaments here with all this riding on it. Here, though, you can see ultimately, it still is a fight at the Coliseum. They're trying to just go back and forth. What an odd place to fight in, too, right? This risky reels drop spot. We already know what happened in the previous round. It ended so quickly for Paltry and company. And again, they just lose him, right? They're not paying attention, and guys are gone already.
All credit to Fishy's team as well. Getting 25 points. I was even going to say, even if you win this drop, I don't really get how you can walk away with the loot enough to have a good game, but they did. In their first game, they got a 5th place with 5 eliminations. Sorry, their last game, they got 5 elims in 5th place when they won the spawn fight. So proving things can be done out of risky. I mean, on NA East, XMB, Ved, and Leo, a team for me that is one of the most underrated teams, not just in NA, but the world, making it out of risky reels. So the drop has the potential. I just don't get it when you have this prolonged fight, though.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? These extended battles in the early instances just do so much damage to the likelihood of you performing well. The stats say it, you know, everyone knows that the data is true here in these games. And, you know, these fights are ones that you really got to weigh in, right? You got to weigh into whether or not these are the ones you want to continue to do. Fishy on the other side, who had the lead coming into this early, now gets bested for once, and Synergy does a little salt in the wound there. Take the L. It's a trio coming in, though, and they might be able to wrap this up quickly. No shield on the risky squad.
Holy Hedges, another fight that's an interesting one. A little bit more loot than risky, a little bit more played out, but one of the least amount of loot for as a POI, but only at Holy Hedges. I really think that brings this drop together and why there are phenomenal teams going here, not just on OCE with Fresh's team, but teams around the world, is when you really do get that Viking ship, you get, you know, the Rainbow Rentals, you get that coastline loot as well, because this is the kind of loot you're looking at when you get just Holy. We have the Grey AR, the Grey Tac shotgun, peppers, and then some gas cans, but once you win this fight, if you potentially win it, and then you get the loot around the area, that's where things kind of really come together for this drop, as Alze on the high ground right now. Hixel's behind as well. No one's really got that firepower. I'm not seeing anyone here with that really strong shotgun that I think is going to break this fight open, which isn't always a bad thing. It's going to be an interesting fight of who can play it well as a team, because no one's really got that big opener except for maybe a sniper shot, as Tomato Burger's team is kind of rotating in from the edge over there. Muds has got eyes on this fight, as Absol holding a cheeky little angle with that snipe. I like this play.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? If there's a team coming up from the Rainbow Rentals, it means that that loot is not secured. It's not accessible to them coming out, and it makes this drop much less appealing, right, for any team here. It's Muzzer there. Muzzer's going to get hit with a big sniper shot. Should put a little bit of a pause on them and some respect for the high ground team in Holly. But again, they've spent so much. They've expended material, just a ton of material, right, in that big battle there. And no one wins anything for this. Look, they're all disengaging. I guess they get some tags for it, right, for what that's worth. But otherwise, it's shambles for everyone.
Yeah, shambles for everyone, like spending a lot of material and time here. I guess they're racing to see who can get the loot around Holy Hedges. There's a few houses around this area. You have the Blaze spawn just a little bit further towards Sweaty Sands there. We have the zone coming around the edge, and I think they're all trying to get to that loot as quickly as they can, because they're very shambles right now, as we have our Game 2 winning team, Baffle, Seiko, and M1 making a long rotate around the coastline here, past Flush Factory, and interesting to see if that's unlooted, because we did see in that our game number 1, our team that dropped at Logjam, Hydro Dam, that usually has this area, probably would have gone flush, but they quickly pushed Slurpee, so I don't know if that's their loot route. Either way, Baffle's team not looking to try and loot up this one. They just want to keep rotating all the way around, as Chemo's team and Fab doing really big things in a drop spot we haven't seen much from, and they're on the bridge here getting their medal up. I'm not sure where they'd be dropping to be here. Maybe this is our salty team. I'm not entirely sure, but they're looking good on points and loadout, so they definitely have a major PY. Whether it be Pleasant or whether it be Salty Towers, I think it's got to be one of the two.
Yeah, for sure. And Chemo in particular has that double shock, and he's running the Dragon's Breath coupled with the tactical. So they're looking to put some serious damage on, say, anyone that pushes their box. Or, of course, they want to dive in on someone they have all that to work with as well. And yeah, like you mentioned, a team that can get fully maxed out on material is one that is definitely going to dominate. They're doing just that. Here's Sinner down. This is a big down here. This is your second place team right now between Get, Fallen, and Sinner. All right, they're getting pressured up.
This team Fallout's been showing a lot of love towards, and they have been playing this really well. They've got the loadout here, they get the pickup, they got the med kit, so I'm going to guess maybe a headshot snipe usually is how these kind of trades go out. I see no one nearby. I see no team pushing. I have to think that was maybe a beautifully placed headshot snipe on run, and then Gex now got to go through some meds, so it doesn't cost them too much, and they did have a lot of loot in the back pocket, so not feeling too scared for them. But yeah, Fallout's been showing some love to this team with good reason. They're playing consistently here today. They've got a 2-elim 12th last game, but that 10-elim third was huge in game number 1.
Yeah, the 10 elims is really what matters. Really what's going to carry them up. Those big placement points, the 2 per elim. Oh, now Repulso. Once again, okay, so I feel like they've gone a different direction multiple times now. They've taken on different teams, kind of mixing up the strategy. This time, Sorbet Swamps is the target of choice. And let's see how this is going to play out already. They're not afraid. Forrest manages to crank his way up to the top. And look at this, the AR pressure. Remember, you're looking at two teams with 2 entire POIs themselves. POIs that grant so much material, so much ammunition. They're loaded on both ends.
Yeah, they're loaded on both ends as Repulse just drops straight and splits these teams up, and that's it right now. People usually have their way. They take their fights. They've been hitting the VODs. They go for the pinches, the angles, the setups. Repulse just blows that all out the window every time, just jumping straight into the fray, just relying on pure mechanics to break up the fight, and that's when Forbes and Tyrax can make their way in. They've just split this team straight down the middle. I honestly have to kind of liken it to like kind of a log splitter. You kind of like setting up, you got the foundations, but Repulse just jumps straight in the mix, straight down the middle, and now LZQM is a solo on the back foot as this team is just going to be walking through them now.
I mean, it's a good way to put it, right? This is exactly what happened here. It's a quick breakdown for the situation, guys. You can have a game plan, but you can't stick to it if someone like Repulse is just that wild card. He's a wild factor. And he's similar, like you said, he's got the mechanical skill to really, I guess, get him out of a pinch, right? Get him out of what normally would be a death situation for anyone else, right? But some players just have that skill ceiling mechanically that allow them to, excel in these situations.
Yeah, Timmy said it. He thinks he's one of the most gifted people in the world, and it's been a bit of a meme. It's a bit of a joke in OCE when you talk about, the genetic god Repulse, but honestly, it really does shine through in a certain aspect. When you watch this guy play, you know what he can do. As LZQM now was trying to take this fight onto Tyrax, who was going for the reboot on Repulse, and that was the perfect bait to have Forbes come through and clean it up, saying, hey, Aussie, Monster, you guys are giving Repulse all the love here. I am one of the best players in the region, which Forbes is and has been for a very long time. Watching Forbes play for honestly the first 6 months to a year as I was observing OCE, I'm happy to admit, didn't realize the guy was a controller player just because of how fast and fluid his mechanics are. Not hating on my controller game, but usually, you can tell the movement, things kind of happen, it's a lot smoother. Forbes is so quick with it, I could never actually tell.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a good pickup right there. And listen, we might see a clash between the two, right?
Oh,
Jalen, Zora, Squeaks here. These are the 2 biggest teams that we put on the prediction list, the 2 teams that we've been really hyping up all day. Another team we're hyping up right here, a fan favorite of sorts, right? It's Witty. It's Witty's crew on the other side of the wall. They use that AR pressure. This is the advantage for them, or not the advantage, but the way that they want to play, right? They have the inherent disadvantages. You use that AR, use it to your benefit, and really go for those gunfights. If you can get those gunfights and exchanges, if any team is silly enough to exactly allow you to take those trades, that's going to help you out a lot.
And I mean, you talk about them being on this advantage. They clearly don't see it this way. This is their Caddy Corners team. They have chased them down from Caddy Corners and Weather Station. This is Venacy, Faulty, and Trixie, who have been dropping with them earlier today. So the fight didn't break down at Caddy, but they're like, hey, man, we're going to take this to you. I have never seen a team playing on such a ping deficit be so confident in their early game engagements. Could potentially be because they are 3-time back-to-back-to-back round 4 qualifiers. They know they're getting it off consistency. They don't need to place top 10 here today. So maybe they're trying to make their statement.
Yep, and that's what they're doing. They're pushing players back, and they're showing, hey, we're ready for the heats. You better hope you don't end up inside their lobby, because they're going to make you pay for it. And here now, going for the replacement, trying to single out where the opponents are and continue to take this fight. It is still a good old-fashioned 3v3. Both sides seemingly hurt in the material compartment just by how drawn out this battle's been. You see Venice's loot, only 48 builds as well, below the Storm Surge. So yeah, now, at this point, hey, maybe they're lucky Sweaty's here.
Yeah, maybe they are lucky here as Repulse is still trying to push this fight in. Now they're pushing onto Shane here if they can. 3 eliminations for Forbes. He's really kind of, he's racking them up right now. I'm sure there is a little bit of banter going on between these teams. Who can get more eliminations? It's like when you play with your friends in arena or potentially even pubs. That's honestly how Repulse team is treating this one right now, with pushing these fights in. And they always have the meds right now. They always have that kind of excess of meds. And that's due to the playstyle they have. They don't have those long drawn out fights. We talked about them once. They get in, they end them quick. Everyone gets to keep their meds, and they get to get any of the meds off their enemy. If you have a long drawn out fight where everyone goes through their stacks of minis, that's where things slow down. But when you're ramp phasing in like Tyrax, things end quickly.
Yeah, he's setting it up, and you even saw for a second there, Repost was gonna heal, but saw Tyrax in a fight. Instead, he goes straight to the gunplay there to back him up. That's the back and forth. That's the communication going on between the two. Maybe a friendly rivalry and a race between the squads, but they still have one another's back. They're proving just that here. The refresher, though, is enough for them to get out. The Siphon keeps them nice and healthy as they storm fight their way through here. Shane's still on the run now. This is a completely different trio, is it?
This is a completely different trio now. I think this is the same trio that was kind of out around there. Kimber's gone down, so I think we've still got one, but with this team running through everyone, you can't really tell. There has only been 6 teams that have gone down. I feel like with the way our observing is going, because we want to show you the action, you might think that OCE is just W King all across the map. No, it's just this team. We've only lost 6 teams right now, and they've engaged on 4 of those. So they're cleaning up the map right now, trying to play these ones out as Forbes has gone down. So Tyrax and Repulse need to rack this one up quickly. They need to finish this off and get the reboot or get into zone, because I don't think Slurpee reboots on the cards anymore, Monster. I think it's going to have to be a deeper reboot, and that's even if they win the fight, as the big shot comes out from Repulse. CWM has 0 seconds and he's down to zone. It's now 2v1 and they get wiped up, so maybe we see a Slurpee reboot. If not, Repulse and Tyrax are going to have to play this one out as a duo, because there's only really Misty that's even close to being in right now.
Yeah, let's not forget, of course, that zone's going to start pushing soon too. And yeah, look at this. They're on the edge there. They're holding out. They're in a fight, though. They should be able to wrap this one up and get moving, right? So I don't think they'll be here when the boys exit, but still scary nonetheless.
They need to win this fight. There's big things on this team. Again, if you haven't really followed kind of the history of the OCE teams right now, Zora and Jarlin did have guaranteed qualification through consistency, with Price choosing to drop Price in favor for Squeaks, who obviously was left without a team due to the very unfortunate announcement of the retirement of X2 Twins Jesse. X2 Twins Jordan will be playing next FNCS, he has stated, but wasn't able to kind of, bring it together at the end here. So Squeaks was left without a team, and, Jarlin and Zora picked that up as a potential, thinking they have a better chance to win grands or do well in grand finals, but they gave up their qualifying spot. If they don't make top 10 here, they don't make heats, and nothing feels worse than having heats guaranteed, splitting as a team, and then not qualifying. So pressure's really on them, and looks like they're not feeling it as they take this fight pretty confidently, though.
Yeah, but here's a team that also went into that end game from game 1 without a lot of elimination. So again, changing the narrative a bit here, right? Showing like, hey, we can get involved. We can best a lot of these squads. And, right, we're into game 3 already. So these squads are fired up. They're warmed up. And there's no excuses at this point moving forward. So you see Repulse in the feed's going to fall there. I'm assuming that's a knock to the storm line. So he already probably having a tough time moving his way through.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lot of chances unless I know the slurp truck in that area has gone down. They didn't really have that. They've got a few campfires on their rotate as well, but it's going to come down to see what Tyrax can do as a solo. They're racking up the elimination points, though. They're still up there inside the top 10 on the leaderboard, and if they get to end game one single game, that's where they're really going to run it up on the high ground potentially and get their big points up. So not too worried for that team, but either way, you got to put it to Repulse. I love it. They're putting on a show here in the final week. They're giving us the entertainment for this entire early game.
Yeah, they're keeping it nice and interesting for us all the way through. Tyrax there is going to fall out. There wasn't anything they can do. Miscalculated on the timing there. No extra slurp kegs because of the fight that they started and all that other good stuff. So, it all comes around to bite them. But 55 points, not bad at all. It's still, the Elims alone, listen, they're carrying their weight. They're carrying their weight so well here just off of Elims. Like, they're not upset about that. Not too much.
I mean, they might be setting their own record here. They could potentially be the one team across any region to make top 10 with the highest average placement, in the sense that it's the highest number, the lowest. Like, there is no way. Right now, they are sitting in 6th place, and going into this game, they have an average placement of 15th, which means that when you put it into the current format, they're only getting 2.5 placement points on average a game, and they're pushing inside top 5. So they're doing big things right now and really making a statement that they have this reputation of keying for a reason.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Any other format, and you'd be scratching your head at that one, but it's working out for them here, so that's what matters. Play the game to your strategy, your benefit. You'll see fruits of the labor here, though. Back with Jalen, Squeaks, Zora on the move right now. 3 elims, like we said, more than they had even coming into that final instance from that first game where they fought for the high ground. Here's the other side. Here's the enemies that they're looking at, right? So many players, they got to go back up this mountain. OCE is just being blessed or cursed tonight with these zones here, but we're getting some very interesting ones.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that here. This is a zone that Fallout wouldn't want, being a man of the players, like you said, but me being a man of the entertainment factor. I love these zones, but yeah, I've really got a feel for these players right now. We talked about a final week where all these new names come in. They might not have the competitive experience. Can they step up to the occasion? I mean, you're being tested here. You're literally being put on a stage, put on the pedestal, on the biggest mountains that you can possibly get in these zones, which always make the most difficult end games. One wrong decision, bouncing down too early, going down the mountain, staying up the mountain, anything can cost you the entire game on that one positioning, which just doesn't happen as much on other areas of the map. As Squeaks gets a nice little knockdown there, that'll be a good material refresh. And I was going to mention, interesting position the Squeaks' team took, right, Monster? They left themselves really open to the sidelines to prioritize getting on this low ground positioning, which makes me think they're really banking on zone going down this way. If zone pulls north, they've got a literal uphill battle. It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, I'm getting like super polar peak vibes right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like Infinity Blade all the way here. These mountain zones. Hey, you talk about entertainment. You'd love being a part of that one. That was a crazy week for comp. But again, back to what's at hand here. Super polar peak vibes. This high, steep ground, this steep play, multiple zones here ending out back to back. It's all reminiscent of teams on the nightmare zones, and that's what we know Fortnite to be. It's a little bit of everything, just depending on where the end game goes, it will determine the way you play it out. Some teams perform well here. Some teams know how to operate those high grounds. But honestly, this is where mechanical skill, I say more so than anything, really plays off, right? Of course, it's game sense, but it's mechanical skill, man. You got to be able to build up. You cannot afford to make an error at these points.
Oh, and the zone pulls up on top of the big mountain. Here it is. Squeaks, Zora, and Jalen have to make their literal uphill battle to get on top of this one, as Wavy Trexie's team below the surge has got a very big battle against them as well. It's Mania's here trying to do something if they can, and unfortunately it looks like they're gonna fall down here to the Storm Surge. 4 points on the board, 3 games in. Mania's not gonna be happy with that one, and they're out of here, and they're gonna watch this one close out as we have the zip line causing chaos here as Mobrick's getting in there. Elusive falls, and Flero being pushed in on. What is happening? Ziplines, RPGs, doesn't matter. He is fighting with his back against the wall with everything he has, getting 2 knocks to himself. Well played there.
Listen, respect to Flero actually reading the situation, recognizing what was going on, and then tracking through that chaos. He actually hits the shot that matters most. Jalen, Squeaks, we knew they were going to have a tough time getting up this mountain, but they're fighting. They're soldiering their way all the way up. They find some enemy builds to work through, and Squeaks is leading this push up here. Jalen does have some heals. You got to be careful, though, any which direction. One false move here, and you are going to eat a lot of storm damage. Cannot do that at these points here. Other teams looking to hold them out, but no, Squeaks is building an all metal. They're expending everything that they have. I really do respect the play here, and it seems like they will be making it to this new zone.
They will be making it to the next zone here, and I mean, they made it up. I guess that's why they wanted to go on that bottom side, because they knew this left side would be so free that they've rotated off. They've made it on top of the mountain. Where can they position? I want to see which team has that big high ground. I know we kind of panned over it before, but in all the action, I lost track. I want to see who's got that big position. It looks like it might be Neo and Fab. I think they're not on the very high. They've got their heads kind of blocked off here, but they're on a good position up the top.
And look at that harpoon as well to go in and get the loot here. Chemo's going to jump down. A little miscommunication there can cost you a bit. Nayo does need this. They need the medium ammo. This is why they're hopping down. They send Chemo in, who's the weakest of the crew. We'll see what happens if he can get back safely. Rip, Kripa, and BMP. There's so many elims since we last checked in with them. 7 now as we approach the end game. Here it is. The first full moving zone is going to go completely opposite. Once again, it's a max draw distance. This went all the way to the mountain front to the coast and then directly back in, all the way back to the major POI. So everyone's going to have to move. At this point, you have to assume it's just going to keep going that way. So you need a refresher here.
You need a refresher here, and I've got to kind of, I've got to bring it back, and I've got to give credit to Baffle's team there. They put themselves in that high ground position again, Monster. So I asked, was it luck? Were you gifted the zone? No. Clearly that team has great positioning. Baffle, M1, and Seiko were on the high ground, seeing if they can maybe set themselves up for a back-to-back win here in round 4. In the 6 games, that would be a big statement as they had the position to do it, but now zones are going across. They're still on the high ground. This is the team I was just talking about. Do they bounce across and hold that high ground? Because as zone pulls down, high ground's a great position to be in, but you really need to play it well. You've got to stay that front side, and you can't just eat all your material tarping. You need to do exactly this. Bounce it down, build back up, ramp up, reinforce, and hold that high ground. We might get a back-to-back here, Monster.
Yeah, definitely. With this high ground now, it's looking like they just wrote it in the books there and solidified it in history, but we'll see. There's still so much other players in this game. We've seen low ground teams do more with less.
Oh, yeah.
So it is still going to come down to managing the clutch up, right, in these final moments. There's still veterans on the scene right now. Big names in here, in the mix.
Big names in the mix, and that's it. The pressure is now back onto our team that needs to qualify here. I want to see if Squeaks can hold on to this one. They're sitting around that second height area. Don't think they're going to try and make a play for high ground, but definitely trying to hold on to it in one sense. As Spy fighting his way into this top 120 below. OCE getting active surge on rotating zones with mountain zones. I could not be more proud of how these teams are playing out their rotations, playing smart and making it to end game, but a few of them unfortunately mismanaging their storm surge, because these are really the only games within a season that you will get active surge on rotating monster. You don't get to practice it often. It's only when you bring the best of the best together.
Yeah, and this is arguably the toughest zone to actually find your tags, right? Because if you deter from the game plan, it's all over. You fall so quickly in this zone here. There's too much going on. And honestly, more often than not, you just hope, you pray that everyone takes care of it for you. Either way, though, you got to be active here. It goes the distance. Squeaks now in front with Jalen. Like we said, can they continue to maintain their hold? They've done so much here. Already at 62 points. These are big points. That's a full trio there. But we're hopping back and forth. All the action that's going down here. 10 elims for Kripa and company. So good.
They're trying to do big things here, and Squeaks' team was low on the material. They're holding that low ground angle, trying to jump out and find something as Jalen's in here as well. BMP here as he's trying to find it, finds the angle, but Jalen is still lurking behind that stair, trying to find something here. Squeaks goes down as well. There it is. They're jumping back around here if they can do something. Frog gets eliminated too. Baffle is in this one. Seiko on the high ground. Can they make it back to back? They have the med kit for the heal off. Do they potentially have anything else though? Because this could maybe go that far, but no, they are dropping down as a full trio. They're finding the angles, they're finding the edges, and they're finding the eliminations. They don't want to risk the heal off, but Seiko needs that siphon. He finds it. Maybe the medkit's the best they have, but only 3 teams left. This is the big top 3 for placement.
Yeah, and Nep here does have 200 HP, but he's going to get tagged once. This could be the saving grace. That other squad that was in the mix here. Ooh. And now it's a toe-to-toe action, and there it is. The most healthy player in the lobby. The biggest threat gets taken out, and it's all but said and done for the high ground team now. In this low ground situation, Bluesy tries to go up, but no, it's not going to be enough. A 3v1 will be what seals the deal.
Baffle's team, Baffle, M1, and Seiko have just gone back-to-back. Their match history was a 28th place, 1 elim. Then they got the 4 elim first place, and then I didn't see how many eliminations they had there, but back-to-back first places. I talked about it. Usually qualification into top 10 is around that 80 points. You can do it with 2 good games. I don't know. I'm not saying they heard that because I'm sure they already knew. They did it in literally 2 games.
Yeah, listen, we're going to have to toss it over to the analysts to see what they think about this because the standings are going to change now. Take it over.
All I can say is Baffle season is well and truly open. And I mean, we were talking about this off screen, but it just goes to show how commanding they are anytime high ground fights or anytime verticality is being able to be presented. It was not a fluke. This back-to-back win proves so full out.
Yeah, consistency and consistent high ground shows true right there. Big shot to Baffle. Great IGL and back-to-back games are they able to hold a high ground. It's interesting. We thought that it was actually going to be Jalen, Zora, and Squeaks. We thought it was going to be someone else holding consistency. Instead, it was them. We'll find out what's happening with the standings right after this. My bad, Vandy. I didn't hear.
No. So
I didn't hear in my ear. That was my fault.
No, that's fine. I too was confused because
What's happening?
It's supposed to VO over this.
Welcome back from the break to Season 5's FNCS for OCE presented by the AO. Timmy, any final thoughts from Match 3 after the replays we just saw on break?
Again, one thought, baffle season. I think, to break it down a little bit more than just saying baffle season, I think it really goes to show how important a really good IGL is in this season. We've seen two extremely vertical zones that are really, important to have an IGL for. So, yeah, these next three games are going to be extremely important for these standings here, Vandy.
Well, we've kind of broken it down, but I am interested to see what the casters think. Let's not keep them waiting. Aussie Antics Monster, back to you guys.
I mean, Timmy always says it best. We've had two very difficult zones, and Baffle has shown up. Baffle season. It's been a bit of a meme. It's been a trend in OC for quite a while now, but genuinely proving his worth there, putting them in such a good position to get back-to-back wins. That is so many points, and we'll see if they can put it together here in game number 3. Does Fallout get his way? I mean, honestly, at this point, I kind of want to see a more vanilla zone monster just to see how teams play with it, because with a normal zone, things would be more entertaining because it would be different, because that was two pretty much identical, very difficult zones.
Yeah, it was very difficult zones, and I mean, you say identical, I felt like it was the opposite. Yeah, same area, completely different way they played out. One went back over, one played all the way down, so, you know, either which way, high ground was going to be superior in those instances, and we saw it played out just like that. Textbook.
Yeah, textbook when you've done your research, though. Textbook when you've done your homework, which is exactly what Timmy was touching on there. Baffle's done his homework, set up his team for success. There was other good performances in there. The teams we've been following from the start. Zorajal and Squeak still in that one. 63 points right now in 5th place, securing that top 10 so far. If they get one good win, one good game, they will 100% have pushed their way through. We do have Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax pushing down towards that 8th place, just inside the top 10. And this is what I want to touch on, Monster. It'll be the first time they haven't got a good first zone. They've been able to kind of run through the lobby and have that aggressive playstyle because they've had the zone near them. They've been able to play around with it and take their time. Now we have our first far northern zone. Do they rotate early? Do they warpath in? Do they play the rotation? Just gonna see. And now teams like Jarl and Zora and Squeaks get their chance to have a good first zone.
Yeah, this is definitely a lot different, right? And remember, we're coming into the back half of it. Here's your leaderboard coming into the qualifiers right now. 86 points. It's tied up at the top. We saw Chemo there at the end pick up. Repulse in the exchange. Fab and Naya holding up that second. And again, it's a close competition right now. There's no tossing up, you know, of the positioning here. But remember, the big team we're looking out for is Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks there because of the fact they need to qualify through. If someone's tuned in here late, I mean, Ozzy, listen, break down the story as to why they absolutely need this qualification period.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, you haven't been following OCE, this is one of those teams that's kind of had that moment where they had a guaranteed qualification. You had Zora, Jarlin, and Price who've been playing together first week and second week. They've been playing really consistently, hadn't had that big performance, but then when things broke down for Squeaks' team, which is with none other than the X2 twins, Jesse announcing his retirement, which again, super sad to see one of the biggest competitors in OCE since the very beginning, one of our only international competitors. He announced that he's stepping away from Comp Fortnite. Jordan's going to stick around, but by that point, it was week 2. It was the first night of week 2. They couldn't get a team together. They couldn't find a player. They sat out week 2, and then Jordan's saying week 3 is a little bit too late. I'm just going to sit out this FNCS. Squeaks wanted to step up, and because of that, we then had Jarlin and Zora drop Price, their existing teammate, who is a phenomenal player in his own right, thinking they can perform better with Squeak. So not only do they have the pressure of making top 10 here, they have the pressure of, you know, looking like a fool if they don't qualify, right? Like, that's not a position you want to be in, giving up your guaranteed qual and then not making it. It'd be a repeat of what happened last season with Slayer. Slayer leaving his team to play with Mr. Fresh Asian and missed out on qualifying.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge risk there. You do not want to miss on these big opportunities here. We already know, especially this FNCS, the cash is stacked once again. Kind of like the good old days, right? Yeah, the Grand Finals cash is the place to be. So definitely a big risk here if you want to be a full-time competitive player.
Yeah, you don't get anything for the qualifying weeks. There's been a few different changes in this FNCS. Some have been loved by the community. Some, you know, we saw a tweet yesterday from, or sorry, day before, I think, from Fortnite Competitive saying there will be some slight changes to future FNCSs this season, but all the money in the grand finals, I have to say, Monster, I'm a fan. Like, for example, take EU, $1.3 million being given out on a single day. Like, that's the skirmish days. That takes me back to, like, lives being changed in an instant.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the players love the big cash prizes as well. I think it makes for a great spectacle, all of which we're watching unfold right here, right now. It's that Caddy's Corners fight. We've seen it every single game. We're watching it happen again. Usually it's Fizz, Togwin's Witty on the winning side of this all. And even when the zone's not there for them, they still do it in time and in style. Look at that. They win this drop again. 3 more eliminations for them. Now, listen, they haven't had big end games by any means, but they've carried themselves through just off of elimination every single week, I'd say.
They're doing phenomenally well as the Mii Sports team cleans up this fight at Camp Cod as well. I've been seeing Camp Cod be uncontested every other game, so I don't know if that was Mii Sports team dropping here, changing up the narrative, or whether they were going here and another team tried to encroach in. But Mii Sport, the team that just qualified in from round 3, I think they came 32nd on 36 points, not bad. And I want to give a shout out here to Toggle and Zwitty here. I think if you're trying to one of those players who always ask me, you know, I'm sure you get asked as well, Monster, on socials, what do I do as a high ping player? How do I fight? How do I place? Go VOD review these guys. Hit the competitive tab, hit the replays. This is their 3rd week in a row making round 4 on 100 ping in a region that is very aggressive and known to have solid fighters. They are doing something very right. Look at how they take their fights. They play back, they play the angles. When they go in as a team. They don't try to wall replace. They don't use their ping deficit as an issue. They play around that and find other ways to make it in. And honestly, it is so impressive to watch.
Yeah, you gotta, there's a lot of players you can check out too, right? That like DGen, you know, look at the mass qualifiers that do it on multiple different regions, right? BL's Hen, when they play cross region on these international style tournaments, the ones that are accessible to them, those are the guys you gotta study. Just gotta do your homework, right? Learn from the best ones that are in your position or your style of play, especially those that have internet or ping difference.
It is. It's going to be a big one as well. You got to play your style. And we're seeing that in the highest levels as well. We got like Centered Edgy Commandments team completely revolutionizing how teams play low ground. You have other teams that like to alpha their high grounds. It's interesting when you see teams that, you know, have a strategy and come up with something. Hitting the theory craft, as you usually call it in other games. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Spud Light as well, my man who revolutionized the meta by figuring out the snowball launcher. There's so many interesting things in the game that I guarantee no one's thought of that really comes down to those players that are playing on somewhat of a disadvantage. Spud Light coming off the console track, you know, sometimes holding up against guys who have, you know, their full setups, the 240 hertz, they've got everything going for them. But if you're smarter and you can think about a way to kind of, you know, bring them back to your level, try and play a little bit smarter, you can do big things with it.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Just bring them down to your level, right? Get them into your domain and really take advantage, take the battles on your turf, your terms. It should all work out well. Here's that Risky Reels location of the map. We already know Coyote Jamal have been dropping here. It's been a bit of a back and forth contestant for the draw spot. Oh, both sides finding their better shares. Now back with repost Forbes and Tyrax though. No elims. Not used to what we're seeing this late into zone 1, which is crazy to say, but they're looking to change that once again, these early game battles. This is how they're staying relevant. This is how they're staying up. It's based off of the elims.
Yeah, no eliminations, zone 1, uncontested. What do you mean? But yeah, for any other team, that would be, yeah, that'd be kind of ludicrous. But for this team, this is a slower start for them as they're pretty much playgrounding this team to the sky limit. Tyrax is up there, Elusive drops down, Machu dropping down. And again, I touched on it, Movrix, Elusive, and Machu. This is a good team with high mechanics. Movrix, again, being up there in the conversation as one of the best controller players in OCE. Forbes being the player who usually holds that mantle, trying to, you know, come out ahead of this one, and they gave him a run for their money. The high build was there. Obviously, Repulse team being like, oh, whoa, whoa, this is one of those teams that maybe we can't just walk through. Let's find an easier target, as Jarlan, Zora, and Squeaks need a big game here. They need to do something as Sweaty. They can't go down here.
And now things are really slowing down. Jarlan's going to get punished first in the battle, and he's going to have to pause up, gets his heal on. Gets to watch the bigger picture here, what it means for them. 63 points. It's all risky at this point, honestly. You can think of them, you know, being in a position to somewhat smooth sail if they just play endgame consistently over and over. But I think after that first game, seeing that they can win with not a lot of elims just wasn't enough. They've really turned up since then. They've taken a lot more risk, a lot more battles, and the confidence is really showing here.
Yeah, and I think so it should as well. This team has just got some of the best mechanics. Fallout talked about in the pre-show. You've got Jarlan, who's just a competitive veteran, been in the scene for the longest time as well. Zora, obviously Jarlan, Zora, and Papa. You talked about it. Monster went to NA, absolutely dominated the scene, really did prove that OCE pros can compete on other regions. And then you got Squeaks, who has always been known to be a bit of that creative mechanical demon. Obviously, he gained a lot of popularity and notoriety playing with Fresh. Whenever they'd 1v1, people would realize just how insane Squeaks was with his mechanics. So they can take these fights and win them, but I do respect their maturity. I respect the situation they're in to be like, look, we could probably win this fight 9 times out of 10, but on that 1 out of 10 we lose it. Let's be the bigger players. Let's rotate. Let's just secure our qualification and let's back it up in the semifinals.
Yeah, and that's all it takes, right? It takes one bad game, and then all of a sudden the regrets kick in here. The pressure's on even more so. We only have a few more left here, as we've already broken past the halfway mark. We jumped right into the action here, coming hot off the break here. So there's the teams rotating out of Pleasant. We see for the first time today, Lazy, Reckless. Bluesy got a little bit of them earlier, and obviously they're high up in the standings here at 72 points already. So again, just playing just consistent enough, doing everything just right. Them in the conversation here for their qualifying run.
And this is a team that had a big statement to make. Reckless, Bluesy, and Lazy, you know, they've been playing consistently in cash cups and tournaments recently and stuff, but really do need a big performance here. So they're way up in the leaderboard. They want to hold on to that one. Same as Chemo, Fab, and Neo. So this is a kind of boxed up situation of two teams that are performing really, really well here who both need this fight.
Yep. Chemo, Neo, and Fab. All right, on the other side of the wall, it's a big fight for both parties. Two top 5 teams here going toe-to-toe. Let's see. He's knocking on the door right now. Who's going to answer on the other side? Weapons are loaded. Everyone's locked in for this battle right here. And they're seeming like they want to take it. 90 players up here. We saw a lot of action, but none of them really resulted in full teams being wiped out, right? There are so many players. And once that zone starts to close, things are really going to get interesting. So these are fights for tags. There, the warning comes out. These are definitely fights for tags.
These are fights they need to try and take right now, but you don't want to kind of go all in on, especially at this point in the end game. Look how many eyes are on them. There's another team that's rotating in the vehicle near Pleasant. We've got Gex team in the distance there with eyes on this fight. You start to break into the fight, you start trying to get your tags, and that's when things can go real south for you real fast, because nothing is going to make a team focus you more than seeing that or hearing that very loud audio cue from the Storm Surge.
Yes, sir, and there it is. It's going back and forth, and they know they have to start firing on up. Only 69 damage above the surge threshold. That is not going to be enough to maintain for the later instances in the game, and you know it. They know it. They're going to have to keep fighting. If it's not going to be a problem now, it is going to be a problem later for the sniper shot. Oh, Sitter opens up the box, and that was enough to get Fab's attention, and he gets punished in the process. This is even worse now, Ozzy. He's digging into the heals before the surge actually goes active.
Yeah, and there's no way they're going to be able to out-heal this one. 31 teams alive, 90 players. This is a big one. This is what you're going to see in a lot of regions over the next few days. We talked about it. When you have these players that aren't used to being in these endgame situations, the lobbies are stacked as far as player size. They're not usually stacked as far as players' ability to find this surge and push that threshold up. It's when you watch regions like NA East, you know, when you watch the best of the best, they know how to, you know, get their Storm Surge, but also avoid eliminations. A lot of these teams, their only way to kind of survive till endgame in these kind of lobbies is just to hide, and then they just put off the threat till later. They're holding on those 1 or 2 tags, right, more, so they're never that really 200-300 above like you need to be safe.
Yeah, you got to be well and above there. And, you know, the golden rule of thumb is to be around that 200 plus marker, so you know coming into the next zone you have more or less a comfortable spot to be in. But either way, here's a team that stood here a little too long. Ooh. And now they're getting punished. Another rotating squad comes in. Oh, well, we saw them on the bigger picture with the bigger map. There was only 2 squads there. Coral Castle squads have not rotated. And it looks like a Holly Hedges team might have rotated on up as well. That is rough.
That is rough there. Squeaks is now put on the back foot. I said if they take these fights, they normally win them, but they didn't take the fight confidently. They didn't really take the fight in sweaty when maybe they needed to. I talked about them being the bigger players, you know, kind of saying, let's play till the end game, but sometimes you need to have the confidence to step up and take those fights, because now it's even harder to do so, and they've put themselves in a pretty rough position with a lot of teams around them. I did see 6 splashes on Jarlan, which is really good for topping up as an entire trio here if something does go wrong, but yeah, they're going to be eating through a lot of it now. There it is. They're all back up to 100, so they had the meds to do it, but do they have any meds left now, or do they have to go for a refresh earlier than they'd like?
Yeah, and this is one of the bigger surges that we've seen up until this point. There were 90 players up right before this, so that was a whole lot of players that had to get on top of one another. It makes sense as to why so many teams migrated here to the sweaty sands, and now they're all lost in desperation here next to one another. Squeaks, though, still maintaining to bounce back here. 3 0-point fish in the inventory. I was going to point that out. Interesting
strategy. I mean, if you go one for each of your team, I don't really like the 0-point fish stacking, because unless you have 3, your entire team usually leaves someone behind. But if you have 3 of them, we've seen what it looks like in center maps when 3 players on a team can get the 0-point crystals, hit a really good rotate. Not to mention with tax in hand, one of the best phase-in tricks tried in arena or pubs is one of the most fun is get a wall weak, just phase in as you tack it. If you time it right, you fly straight through the wall, even if they're holding it, as Tyrax's team flies straight through this lobby, but no eliminations on the board. So I think that team went down to third parties, or never mind, it's because all 3 are on repulse. They hadn't calculated yet. Yeah. They do fly straight through that team. We're talking about what happens when a North is owned. Well, repulse has to get there first, then he'll take everyone out. So it's fine. It just delays it by a few minutes. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. We're getting right back on track to where we need to be. I mean, and we saw they were taking storm fights. They just didn't go the way that they wanted, right?
Yeah.
Opting to disengage. Obviously, listen, they know, I guess, where to pick their poison, right? Some teams are just really good. They recognize it and they respect that. Others, they just don't, right? You can tell just when they snap their fingers and the battle's over. That's kind of how they wrapped up that squad there. Great refresh for them now to put them back in the game. Just a wide shot. We saw Flero in a tough spot before. Sanjog and company, seems like they've all managed to bounce back. If their heels on, managing the surge, surviving it as well. Here's Gexeter and Fallen, one Elam already.
They're doing well. This is a team that I'm happy to admit I don't know that much about coming into today, but they're making me want to listen. We're coming into the heats after this. Again, heats being 4, the first time we've had 4 heats in OCE. That is a lot of players. That is up there with the teams. 132 teams. I mean, there's going to be a lot of new faces in there, but some of them are going to rise to the occasion, step up and prove why we're paying attention to them. And this is looking like one team I need to start paying more attention to as Team GLM gets more eliminations in the feed right now, as Rip Cripper and BMP trying to make their rotate as well. One of the many signings I've seen to the 6S crew at the moment as well. Seeing quite a few of them playing here today. So really going for, again, those underrated players and seeing if they can pop off here.
Yeah, and this is the week where all the underrated players are going to show up. They're going to pop out. All the teams that decide to kind of mix it up and go for those final marathon sprints here to go ahead and pull out the big performance, the big qualification run, right, for the heats. This is the week that we're going to see those teams really come through and shine. What happens when you put them back into heats? What happens when they make it the grand finals? I don't know. Not very often do you see these up-and-comers, you know, make it all the way through. It's typically the veterans that pull off at the very end, but there is always going to be those diamonds in the rough that will, at the end of it all, I guess, pop off, right, and make a name for themselves. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye, especially on the players within this bracket here, this qualifying week.
Yeah, and look at the map right now, Monster. That is a congested edge on the northeast side, and I have to imagine we've talked about this a little bit more, and honestly, I might have to kind of give a bit of credit here to Timmy. I hope he's listening. Timmy really has coined the dead side rotate in the world, but also OC as a region, and I'm noticing so many players potentially hitting that dead side on the northeast side of this zone that has kind of become congested side, because really, it should be that southeast edge. I'm sure Timmy at the end is going to break it down and tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll happily accept it because he really does see the game in a different way. But it's interesting to see that many teams clustered up in an area that you wouldn't think many players would be rotating through. Like, there's only a couple POIs up there in that northeast corner.
Yeah, definitely. But again, it's all about, you know, if the zone pulls up, it pulls down. Timmy's done these breakdowns before for us, right? And, you know, depending on how the lobby manipulates around those zone pulls, that'll shake up what dead side is and give it a bit of a redefinition as the standard textbook hold. Here, though, back with Wicked, who's 3 below. They have to get very, very active. This is digging into the medium ammunition now. And again, the longer you hold these windows open, the more likely players are going to be looking for angles on you, so you do have to be careful. Anyone can get punished. One big snipe is enough to really offset your entire team's momentum.
We've seen pushing aggressively here. I like how they're conditioning this build fight as well. Right now, if they get the half-half potential, which they have here, which is that 5th zone right now, they will be able to build up and have that position because Tyrax, Repulse, and Forbes, the only other team on this edge, as I say that, has been wounded here. Forbes is down. They'll get the revive. Repulse has the rocket launcher. That is a very, very scary sign. I kind of don't want to see Jarl and Zor and Squeaks on the high ground this game because I know that's where Repulse is going to have his eyes set, but zone goes kind of favorably almost for everyone, I'd say. This is probably the best spot zone could have gone for every team. Those clusters in the northeast can make a pretty easy rotate. Teams like Jarl, Zor, and Squeaks can make their rotate around the edge. Nyla's team following in behind. So this endgame's going to stay pretty stacked here as well.
Yeah, you talked about you not wanting them on height. Nope, they're all the way down on the low ground. I would have loved to see Tyrax's perspective as he lit up that whole entire trio, that golden tactical shotgun. So now full upgrades across the board. Things are going to get very interesting now. We're talking about teams that are set up for success here now. One on the low ground, one with a powered loadout. I do wonder who is on height as this rotate's coming through, though. Trees are breaking all the line of sights here for other crews, so this is perfect for Wicked George, right? And Nyla here, if they really want to play for high ground and do something different, there's an opportunity to do so.
An opportunity to do so, and I want to see if we can get eyes on some of our other teams that have been forming here. I know we've seen in the chat quite a lot. Again, the Baffle season's coming out. I want to see if Baffle can do it again. We haven't got the Mountain Zone. The King of the Mountains, I feel like I'm going to have to coin that for him here as well after those two beautiful games before. But now it's looking like it could be a potential Water and Island Zone. As I said, Repulse's team is going to have their eyes set on that high ground, and that they do. And they didn't even need to use one of the rockets to do it. Unless they had one change hand, that's still 7 rockets there as Repulse gets it. See if he can do something here to Hazard Mars' team on the high ground. Spray comes out, they're going to hear those rockets hit, and if they're smart, they're going to drop down and say, hey, it was a good attempt, we tried to take it, we're not holding it here.
Yeah, they're doing this prematurely as well, right before the next zone even reveals itself, so they're just conditioning them to start turtling down, and yes, now they just branch on over. Right? Look at that. They snapped high ground.
You said it perfectly. That was a conditioning play. They knew if they got zoned towards them, they wanted that team to go down so they didn't have to build up too high. And they knew if zone went across, they needed to take them out. And there's Baffle getting the spray out there. So Baffle in a good spot again, putting his team on front side of zone on first, rotating. Baffle looking really, really solid again. I don't know whether they could do back to back to back. That would be pretty impressive, especially with a team this dominant on the high ground with a good loadout. But he's setting them up for success regardless.
Yeah, and he's just using those rockets now again. He's going to continue to pressure everyone down. Here's Tyrax's perspective. Only 230 damage above, even with all the fighting that they put in. That's ridiculous here, as so many teams are still up, 43 up, which means 13 have to come on down. Squeaks, Jalen, Zora, way below the Surge. These moving Surge fights, we talked about this all. These are so hard to maintain. It's the biggest hurdle for any team now, especially with this many players alive. You are going to have to fight.
Yeah, they have to make something big happen really soon. That's not the spot you want to be in. 200 below, unless a team that's got a lot of their surge goes down early at the top, which pushes that kind of Storm Surge threshold down. Something big's going to need to happen as Tyrax finds the tags onto Jalen. So not only are they below surge, they've also lost a man. They've lost one of their firepower. Squeaks and Zora still there at the front of the tub trying to make something happen. But yeah, this is not looking too great for that team for sure.
This is Tyrax reposting Forbes' opportunity now to really skyrocket their way up to the top after all this coverage we've seen of them over the weekends. Not once did we see them actually push their way through, I feel like, to an end game, right, and pursue a victory royale. All of a sudden now we're seeing the difference here coming out of week 3. Just a taste of what's to come in the weeks follow up after this. Repost now. Being the lead tarper here, just making sure he's maintaining the structures here. All these builds, he is just so comfortable. Hard match for days.
He's doing perfect, dropping down, reconnecting, finding those anchor points because there's no RPG in the lobby, so it's not easy for them to get broken out. The one thing that will break them out is too long of a task with not enough anchor points. They can get sprayed out, doing a perfect job as we see Kazi, Russian, and Spy dropping some bigger limbs down there. That was 9 eliminations on the board, Monster. Our 11th place team from last week as Squeaks and Zora go down pretty much before getting a lot of placement points. They would have only got about 10 points of placement there. Still enough to maintain the consistency, but man, Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax just shredding this lobby. We talked earlier, right, when teams on high ground struggle to get eliminations, but when you've got aim as precise as these guys, they make it look so much easier.
Yeah, and listen, coming into that last zone, Forbes didn't have anything, so all of a sudden now he's really turned up, putting on the points for his team, getting his fair share of the mix-up. Look at the feed lighting up there. Everyone's still going here. This squad down low, Baffle's still in it, but now Tyrax is coming down now. They're looking to get involved here. They want all the elims that's left.
This might be Baffle versus Repulse here at the very end. I could highly potentially see it. 4 teams alive, 9 players, and now 2 full trios. As you see, Sanjog's a solo, so as long as M1 Baffle's team can stay down the low ground, keep controlling things, they could have an upset here against Repulse. It would be incredibly difficult, but you saw Tyrax dropping down. You saw them playing a little bit too aggressive. That is usually the downside of Repulse's playstyle. They take down Gek, they take down Sinner. What can Baffle do? We have the entire OCE community chanting Baffle season. It is a 3v3 against your first place team against Repulse. Tyrax takes down Baffle. The king has fallen. Tyrax is working his way in. Finds the angle around the corner. I hyped them up. Could they win the 3v3? They almost didn't win the 1v3. Unfortunately, Baffle has fallen from no lack of effort, but seriously, jokes aside, first, second from Baffle's team. Phenomenal performance. We wanted to see what happens if Repulse makes endgame. We saw it, and it went how we expected.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're tossing it in the air. Yeah, we'll see the big 20, right? We saw the 17 right there. Those 5, 5, 7 apiece, not bad at all. Listen, Repulse and Tyrax popping off, but Forbes, more importantly, or most impressively, picked up the most string of elims after picking up high ground in the tail end because he had 0 coming in.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Timmy talks about a few 20 bombs, 17 eliminations on the board, and it's when they got a far zone where they had to rotate, they had to avoid those fights, and they ran through it at the end game. Analysts, break it down. Come on, Timmy. Is 17 eliminations good enough?
I don't know, Timmy, is 17 going to be enough? Because aggression was the name of the game this time. But also, something that Aussie and Monster mentioned kind of in the early mid-game on the north side, Timmy, that they wanted to hear your thoughts on. Like, enlighten us why there was so much clustering on the north side when usually it would be considered a dead side. As we kind of go through the replays, that's something also that I didn't want you to forget about.
Yeah, so what you usually see when you get a zone that pulls really far north like we did is dead side to the north. But what we actually saw was in a second zone that pulled all the way west, which is unusual, and it means you have to recalibrate what your idea of dead side is. It means that dead side is now going to be towards the west side. And then we got a zone that pulled south, extreme. So you're going to end up with a lot of clustering at the top right-hand side of the map as everyone wants to try rotate into the center of third. But moving on, I think it's really important to talk about Storm Surge as well. We had 90 people up second zone, and that's really also going to affect clustering. People have to move towards each other to get those picks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's the big reason you saw that clustering on the dead side, on the northeast side of that circle, was because of Storm Surge, people clustering, getting desperate for those tags. But here's an interesting take. They were able to retake high ground, brilliant retake for high, but then almost immediately, as quick as they took high ground, Team Repulse, they decided to start box diving and getting so many eliminations. Repulse went from 0 elims to 5 in the matter of like a minute and a half. A dominant game by Repulse, Tyrax, and Forbes as they just W-keyed everyone in the lobby. This is the moment they sent Tyrax first, then they sent Repulse. Repulse and Tyrax both connecting for 3-4 eliminations in the late game. They were just farming at this point, Timmy.
Yeah, and again, goes to show that skill gap that we talk about. These guys making everyone look silly, to be honest. Tyrax coming in, finishing up these last two elims on Baffle Season's team, but unfortunately, they can't make it back to back to back, but they do nearly just as good with a back-to-back followed by a second place. So I'm really looking forward to seeing whether or not we can see another win from Repulse or if Baffle can take it back.
And one quick note on that too, I got to say kudos to Baffle, and we'll keep the Baffle season going, baby, because we gotta. The Baffle hype has to stay real. But 2 games that they win from high ground, but then they showed a little bit of low ground warriors right there in that late game. They made it to second place. So showing a little bit of diversity right there, Vandy, and being able to maintain high, but also dominating that mid to low ground.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because even though they didn't get the Victory Royale, they still got plenty of placement points, and it might have just been a little bit safer, but at least that consistency is starting to be there. I mean, I don't know if it's just something that they've drunk in the water or all of the community kind of, trying to get #Baffle Season trending, but something is definitely there. But Repulse, they're not going to, roll over. They have that caliber, they have that pedigree, as you guys said. But let's take a look at the updated standings coming through this. And I mean, I'll get you Fallout to talk us through this, because Baffle Season still up on top of the leaderboard, even though we just came off a Repulse win.
You better believe Baffle Season is well in season. 127 points in first place. They were tied for first before going into that last game with 86 with Neo, Fab, and Chemo. Now they are the sole team in first place. Right behind them after a 64-point game. That's right, 17 elims, first place, 64 points put on by Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax. Absolutely dominating. Take a look at their elims, Timmy. 84 elims to 58 from Crippo, Rip, and BMP right behind them. They are absolutely farming this lobby with such aggression and such mechanical skill.
Yeah, sorry, just to point out, it's 84 elim points. So if you divide that by 2, we've got 4. Yeah, exactly. So 42 elims. But you've got to think that's in 4 games from Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax. So that kind of high elim ability is why we might see an absolutely ridiculous performance from them in these next 2 games, mate.
Yeah, I guess exactly right. Absolutely dominating. Russian, Kazi, and Spy you'll see there in 5th place as well. They had a very high kill game. I think they're up to around 10 or 11 kills or eliminations in that last game. 44 elim points for them. Let's take a look at the second page of standings so we can see how this thing is going to continue. We got Bluesy, Lazy, and Reckless, who were in 2nd or 3rd place and have fallen down in the standings a little bit, but solid consistency coming from them. As you'll see, the majority of their points are coming from placement. Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks, they won one of our earlier games. They've been playing consistent throughout. 73 points for them total. Sinner, Fallen, and Gek right behind them as well. And then we got Nunker, Grav, and Chains, who was really, really close to me to qualifying in our last tournament, as we take a flip and take a look at the 11th through 15th place standings. Walk me through it, Timmy.
Yeah, and just to point out about Nunker, Chains, and Grav, team with a lot of pedigree. Nunca and Chains came 6th last season with Oreo. They've switched out Oreo for Grab, so they're a team who I expect to qualify today. But as we look at our teams just outside, we've got our Middle East contingent in 13 with Fizz, Toggle, and Zwitty. Me Sports, Soul, and Ice managed to make their way up to 14th. As I said, they were taken out by Repulse a couple games in a row, so they must have rotated to avoid them now. Doom in 11th there, just on the edge, and then rounding out the top 15, we got Krypton Aspect in there.
That's right. And I believe we have one more page, 16th through 20th, to walk you through it, as well as we have Nilla, Wicked, and Greer with 37 points. Taker, LZQM, and WPuck, a team that's been very, very consistent by qualifying for 2 or 3 of the qualifiers. Right behind them, and you'll see the standings going all the way to 20th with Haz, Casey's, and Mars in 20th with 27 points overall. Tim, one question I want to ask you, though, is we saw 90 players still alive in, I think, zone 3 or 4. Absolutely insane. Any reason for that? Why do you think we're seeing a lot less early game and mid-game aggression?
I think we're going to have a lot of people really trying to farm those placement points because they're not confident in taking fights. You got to remember, we lost 20 of the best trios in the region. These guys aren't as confident as those guys, so it's going to be a lot less fighting.
That's a real good point. But all right, match number 5 is ready to go. So let's go check in back with our casters, Aussie Antics and Monster.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it again. I talked about it, Monster. I knew we were going to get the expert analysis on the dead side switch up there as well. Makes perfect sense when Timmy explains it every time. Yeah, we're going into our final 2 games, and the pressure's now on for some of these teams to jump up. They touched on it perfectly there. 20 of the best teams are gone. These are our teams that aren't as confident. How are they going to jump up and have their big performance in game number 5? And map's looking a little bit different, actually. I'm seeing a few teams at Slopey, one already going down right now. So things are shaking up. People are trying different strategies.
Yeah, people are definitely mixing things up, and this is kind of what you have to do, right? Dirty Docs was contested at the start of this whole show, and now you can see they also are uncontested right now. So we'll see who can mix things up, who can find a winning strategy, find something that can, again, come all together for them. Salty Towers having a few players on top of them there now too. You do get to see Baffle, though. You were promising to the community to show him off. You can see he's on screen. We got the boy.
He's doing well right now, and it's interesting. It's a drop spot that you wouldn't imagine having too much success from, but the reason why I've been hyping him up again, he's got those smart rotations, got that smart position when it comes to getting the loot, and it's a drop spot and a loot path that you can already see Monster as soon as you watch it, right? It gives you the kind of Arkham vibes. It gives you those well-executed, well-thought-out vibes when it comes to how do you get the loot, how do we do it, because everything's choreographed. This team knows where they need to get their loot. They know how to get it out of an area that wouldn't be contested, which is a lot of their strengths. No one's going to be dropping down here to try and fight them for it. They get it every game consistently.
Yeah, it's going to play well for them. Here's elusive Mavericks, though, and Mach on the other side, though. Hold up. Seems like they're pushing a team that's been doing fairly decent so far, and Wicked's not looking too hot right now. 4 points on the side of Mach here. He's going for the fight, and yes, they're going to be able to find that one, quickly wrap them up there, and all of a sudden now they've quadrupled their points here with a full team wipe. Kind of what you want, but is it too late? We're in game 5 here now.
And 8 points is not where I expected to see this team on at all. Like I said, Mavericks really is kind of up there with one of the best control players in OCE. One of the best players in general. He really shouldn't have left it kind of right into the end here. I'm pretty sure they have it off consistency, but Taco Buckle trying to make a big play here if they can in this area. And this is a spot that you're not used to fighting over. But again, I talk about those drop spots where you need to spread real wide to get your loot. This is the Kami split area. This is a team trying to get that service station, trying to get that bridge, and trying to get that henchman house and lake house right down towards Retail Row. So they've got to close this fight out quickly to do that, and that's what they do. They now have the time to go and grab that loot and spread out a little bit wide. I see the dance moves coming out. You guys have got to hurry. You're on 6 points here. I wouldn't be celebrating too early.
Yeah, definitely a little too soon to be celebrating. You got a long 2 games in front of you. Hopefully these squads that are now starting to find their second wins, carry that all the way through to the very end. Here's another team that needs to go ahead and pop off. Production really covering everyone down at that bottom budget line. See what it is that they can do and the struggles that they're fighting up here.
And his team unfortunately falling here again. This battle over Orchard really isn't going their way right now as teammates back it up here. Wavy Trex is trying to push up here, taking the big beam from Jamal. No meds here from Jamal. He has the 121 ammo in that green heavy assault rifle, so can really just keep applying the pressure and eating through these builds. They're switching to the hard mats. Don't know if that's out of necessity for not having too many material left or just trying to build up the mats, but it's a 3v2 regardless. Mania has gone down.
Look how much faster this game's going as well. 81 players up right now as opposed to the 90 in the previous. So now that we're past the halfway mark, I really do see the acts of desperation kicking in from all sorts of players, even those that are just outside the bubble, like Kyoto right here, who will still need two monstrous games back-to-back. We're talking top 3 finishes because you need the placement points, and of course the elims that come along with such a great run. There's Kyoto though, winning this fight right now, has control with his teammates, Jamal and Kello. Jamal's already found one right before this, and no, it was Kyoto who got the full finish, and there goes the wrap up. Not too bad.
A quick wrap up. We're seeing these fights end quick. That's what OCE does best. They take their fights, but at least they end them quick. That's what I kind of want to, I see that more over on West, I'd say, more than any other region, but the fights really do drag out into the storm. Players playing really defensively. And OCE, whatever you say against the region, they take their fights and they really do end them quick. One team always walking out, pretty much closing it out, as Auze trying to do exactly that here over at the Viking ship outside of Holy Hedges, trying to work their way in. Lucas on the back foot, looking really, really weak. One elimination already for Auze. He's got the harpoon, can try and maybe start whittling down these builds or use it to break in, but never mind, the confidence to just step on top of that cone and be like, hey man, toe to toe, let's do this. 2 heavy tags, knows that he's white, and Thrusty holding this angle, but Auze with a beautiful stare around the corner to control that one, can flip the stare back and push forward through this wall and does exactly that. It was a pretty choreographed play though, not really sure. I think they had the best of there inside the Viking ship. That team was just looking like they were struggling.
Yeah, but all credits to Auze there, who he just read every play, right? And he was cautious with this push through. He was making sure he controlled all the pieces as he walked his way through, not really taking any big risk, and didn't fall for the ambush. Even before he walked through the door there, he didn't get thirsty for the push. He still peeked on out. So I'll play for Auze. Playing smart. It's going to get him very, very far. But again, that's another team that still needs to do so much more. The performances in the first 4 was just not enough to really get them in a comfortable position for me to just confidently call them, taking this all the way. There's a lot of teams here that consistency just might not be enough for them.
Yeah, and MeSports team now kind of going up this mountain, seeing what they can do to run away from Toggle, Zwitty, and Fizz. Our 100 ping W keys, they really are just pushing straight through people. We have those Peppers pops obviously coming out of Caddy. They're almost always going to have those Peppers in the back pocket, as Fizz now has to use these meds. MeSport on the high ground position, kind of hold this one out. Needs to get some big shots, needs to apply some pressure as Spaghetti Soul pushing in, and this is an interesting fight. Both these teams are on very similar points.
Yeah, and I think I heard a rocket launcher in play as well. So RPG down on the low ground seems like that was acquired by a shark somewhere nearby. Baffle, Sacco, and M174. They will be hearing these shots though. So Baffle might just be looking to get this mount in front and possibly jump into the mix here. But again, with how the run is in the on the line here, it's probably not the best decision for them. This is going to be an extended fight out now. Minute 30 before they got to make it to new zone. It's going to be one that they're going to have to run and rotate with. Let's see it though.
Oh, Zwitty finds the angle on a MeSport. That could have been a heavier tag. Could have waited till they got a little bit closer, but wanted to try and get those tags in first. And this is what I talked about earlier, right? About teams needing to VOD review this if you're on the high ping. Look how Zwitty takes this. Takes the walls at a distance. Doesn't take walls that opponents are on because he knows they'll hold it with the ping deficit. And if they do hold it, he's backed up far enough away where he's not going to get punished for it. Gets the half wall and then just gets the shots through. Honestly, the way this team plays is just textbook perfection. Right now, Ice not playing as smart. Cranks up, runs out of mats on the high ground, and Zwitty's team is just playing smarter Fortnite.
Yeah, and they're just hitting their shots when it matters most. There it is. Fizz really popping off right now. You can see he's going to find his one and the knock as well. Spaghetti's down, though. Going to have to go ahead and finish this up. So Fizz looking like he's the clutch factor, and hopefully they can pick it up before the siphons go through. These siphons are going to be super important. Killing the down bodies as well. That'll give them enough time to go in and get the full pickup. There it is, the chug splash to keep them in the game. With the siphon pending too, this is perfect for Fizz now.
It's perfect for Fizz. MeSport falls, and that's it. The full trio wipe from a Middle Eastern team that's on 56 points, almost all from eliminations. Just not how you thought it would go at all. And they get the RPG. I know what you might be thinking. Not anywhere near Hydro Dam. The only other way to get the RPG other than Hydro Dam taking it from Ruckus is from the Sharks. And if I believe correctly, I'm pretty sure we saw Baffle had it as well. So potentially 3 RPGs in this lobby right now.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I heard it going off, like I said, right before that, so I knew they picked one up off of a loose shark, but, you know, now it gets to carry its way into these end games. We already know these rocket launchers can play such a factor in manipulating the way the games end up. Take a look at the zone, though. It's going to be a far north pool. And now we jump up to the north where Ryza, Doom, Company, Cyrex here, all taking their battles. Power shotguns in the inventories. Another team nearby looking back, but a quick wipe up there.
Yeah, quick wipe up there. Jamal, Kilo, and Kyoto right now. Kyoto's gone down here. And I want to mention as well, while we're talking about the topic of Baffle 2, having those two dominant performances on the Misty Meadows Mountain kind of lends to that drop spot they're going on the far south of the map. But that second place on a far, far northwestern pool, seriously impressive diversity there to know how to rotate and play that game differently. Monster, you told me you want me to show you the ropes of OCE, right? Do you know the origins of Baffle season? It's okay if you don't. I'm happy to let you know.
No, I need you to lay it on me, man.
For anyone at home who doesn't understand why the community is getting behind it, this has happened once before, and it was due to our brethren over on NA West from another smaller region. Baffle's team went into the reboot round last trio FNCS as the favorites to win it. They had sent it, hitting them up with the coaching session. All the NA West pros, Epic Whale, Rex, the big guys got behind it. Baffle season actually went trending on Twitter, so it's not the first time Baffle has been at the center of attention, being the favorite team in one of these positions. So looking like he might run it up again. Hopefully it doesn't come down to the reboot round again this time around with FNCS, but that's why the community gets behind this guy so heavy, because it's happened once before. He unfortunately didn't win the reboot round. They came close. It ended up going over to Hugh, which started the new trending hashtag of Hugh season. And man, it just shows how exciting the reboot rounds are.
Yeah, and it definitely shows how fun the Fortnite community can be at times, especially when they rally together around the competitive season. And now that we get these OCE broadcasts coming at us, I mean, listen, this is good. We get to make some new fun memories.
It's always content. Whatever it is, OC is always content. As that's what we're seeing from Forbes, Tyrax, and Repulse. No lack of content here. Again, they've got a further north zone, so they've made their rotate. Now we're going to key the first team we can see. But as you see on the mini-map, though, smart team to push. I don't see any eyes on this fight, except for maybe a team that's kind of towards Coliseum, but that rotates good. Repulse has taken this fight deliberately. If they rotate towards this next team, they have that elevation dip before the sand. They can drop behind that. They can cut the line of sight. They can rotate up the water. This is a deliberate fight they're taking, but Team GLM's got a good loadout to take it.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing like a different side of Repost, Tyrex, and Force rotates, right? I'd say the last two games, all of a sudden, I feel like they're trying to play prep for like heats or grand finals. Like they're doing dead side rotates. They play in these outskirts pretty nicely, actually, and they're trying to take it to these end games. I think that victory royale, right, the little taste of those final moments it's something that people want to chase after round after round.
They really do want to chase after it as GLM's team trying to get away from this one if they can. They've gone up on the high ground. Don't know about that play. That is a really kind of scared tactic here. They're trying to get up and holding this one, but Repulse's team's not going to let them go. And the higher you go up, you're wasting your mats here. You're drawing this fight out, so you're going to get held by the next team. And really, you're just putting yourself in a position to get third-partied. Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax showing their confidence on the low ground. They're going to bounce so early. GLM needs to take that chance to get some beams, which I don't think they do. I don't hear any shield cracks. No, they don't. And now they're in a rough position because now they get held. And if they take those bounce pads, Repulse's team's going to punish them for it.
Yeah, that's how quickly things can change there. One early rotate from the low ground team, all of a sudden high and Storm just doesn't feel like it was the play to make. GLM, though, luckily is going to go ahead and close the distance here. They're going to rotate out to the side. That third-party team, though, really being a nuisance for everyone back here, and it's enough. It's enough of a distraction for them to go ahead and go their separate ways.
Yeah, it's enough. I said the strategy wasn't the smartest, but it does get them out of Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax's grip, which not an easy task. There's a lot of teams that haven't been able to get out of a similar situation. Whether Forbes, Repulse, and Tyrax actually let them go, I'm not sure. Repulse trying to farm out these crystals. These ones are permanent on this side of Mando's ship, so you can't actually get them for any material. Let's see if Repulse wants to push this fight. Zone didn't go too far, but the sidelines aren't great. Again, I talked about Repulse wanting to sit behind this little ridge here, this dip to keep himself, closed off from the rest of the lobby. He knows if he pushes that team, they're just going to swim away, and that's exactly what they do. Again, it's calculated aggression. It's not just mindless W keying. There is a method to Repulse's madness.
Yeah, definitely, and they're putting it all together here now. And again, a smart disengage. The fight doesn't go to where they wanted it to be. The distance, the gap, they go ahead and let that one roll through. Here's Nunker grabbing it. One exchange. We saw them a fair bit. I mean, it's that game one, but nothing big just yet. Couple teams still that need to continue to put up the big points, and here's one that wants to continue to stay consistent, of course. Sacco and crew down low with Baffle here. Crippa, BMP on the side, all based up. All these squads, mind you, are inside the zone right now, holding out other players.
127 points. That's looking really, really good right now. They are massively up there. They haven't got any placement points yet. They came into this game on 127. I think they still do have that RPG. I think it's been handed over to Seiko. No, they didn't have it actually. Never mind. So we do only have the 2 in the inventory. Didn't see that one earlier. So Baffle, M1, and Seiko don't need it though. That loadout is looking really, really nice. Set up on this edge, and now I asked for it. Do we get a vanilla zone, which now by default of all the other zones being so crazy, won't be that vanilla. It's a center map zone, but this lends to kind of Ballers 2.0 monster. You get those sand rotates, you have like 30 people on front side, just, you know, it's not as safe as the Ballers, but it's a lot of the safer way to rotate, so it does lend teams that are smarter with their rotates here, who maybe are a bit more shambles, a chance to get back in it.
Yeah, definitely. And same way like in the baller meta, you would get caught up. They will catch you in the box and basically wreck you. The same thing happens in these sand dunes. You got to be very cautious. Stay with your teammates and honestly not bite off more than you can chew. Sometimes it's better to just hop out a little early, right? Box up when you get nice and safe. We'll see how it all ends up playing out. Remember, it's accessible to everyone, not including all the 0-point crystals littered everywhere around the map.
Yeah, you need to try and, like you said, especially when you jump out of the sand, it's that 1 second or 1.5 seconds that really does feel like an eternity where you can't build, you can't pull out your weapons, and that's where you get boxed, or that's where you get caught out. A lot of players really do opt in to go for those 0-point crystals. It's a lot smarter of a way to rotate. You can do a lot more with them, but in the same way, they can also get you stuck in awkward positions. You try to take that one dash too many, you get walled off and boxed inside, and almost feels like the shadow bomb meta where you just fall inside someone's box and you don't really have anywhere to go.
I mean, the worst was beating in the shadow bomb and forgetting to open up the edit, and then
you just stuck there staring at the wall. I mean, that happens with the sand now as well. The strategy, right, where you hit the edit right as you dip into the sand. I'll admit, plenty of times I've fallen in the sand and I'm just headbutting a wall.
There it is. You don't want that happening. Not here. Not on the biggest stage. Not now. But okay, the zone, it goes actually fairly center. This is going to really play well into anyone who took the risk of going dead center here for zone 3, and that means now coming in we're going to see a stacked up half in half out zone, especially since we're on the sand side. Here's Repost. Finally they get their first actual elimination. Forbes though super punished up top. It's going to dig into the early heals that they already had, but I think they found the med kit down there, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think they managed to find something there to kind of get this one back up there. They got the splashes too, which is always good for the full trio. The addition of splashes is so great for a trio meta, and so I'm excited for, right? This is the first trio of four this season. Jeez, the gas can's coming out here. Baffle trying to take a play on a Forbes. I think it might have been Baffle. It could have potentially even been Zwitty, as M1 has fallen here, so Baffle needs to do big things with Seiko. He's opting for those 0-point crystals like I talked about. Such a clean, healthy rotate. Takes a bit of fall damage, but honestly, to get on this part of zone, which is a nice spot, build up in the hard mats and use no mats on that rotation, well and truly worth it.
Yeah, but now he's getting pressured here. The fresh builds being the target of choice for the lobby in front. This could be a lobby focus, and yes, it is starting to become this stat. Sacco's already lit up. M174 not in the game anymore here. Baffle loses a lot of HP for that, all because he wanted to elevate himself. Just that one layer, right? One layer difference opened up many more line of sights to him. They jump down one layer, they can't even see him anymore.
Yeah, you can't even see him anymore here either. Like, I mean, at the same time, they got to drop back down. I guess maybe needing 233 below. There it is. Baffle was setting up. He needed to get that elevation because he knew he needed to get the surge. You can't get much surge from down here. So even though lobby focuses come out, they're going to have to take a fight. They're going to have to play a bit aggressive because there's more than enough people alive for the surge to go active. So it's looking like game number 5 might not be Baffle season or Repulse. We're going to need to see some new teams jump up because I don't know if they can come back from this. They can survive it, but they're not looking healthy either way.
Yeah, and you can see Repulse right there was trying to reload that sniper there to get back in the mix here. One sniper shot's enough to really hold off a team. Seems like he's going to be okay, though. There's plenty of loot there. They're sitting on another refresher, but he's down a member. GLM 36, 100 below. Scratch that to even worse of a situation now. Only 21 points in the game. How do you turn this situation around? This is looking almost impossible to come back from.
It's looking impossible here, but with good shotguns, potentially they can jump in and maybe find some kind of an engagement to get a refresh. GLM's on the board right now. They're behind them, trying to do something here as Zone is ticking them down. They are below the Storm Surge threshold. Snowfalls. Prex looks like he's going to be not too far behind. Results is there as well. Prex going to have to start using these minis, but with 6 players happy to go down, I don't think they're going to be able to out-heal it.
Yeah, no, but Tyrex should be able to get the pick up here onto repost, but no, he didn't even get to stick it. Oh, he started a little too late, trying to keep a low profile. It's Storm Surge on the other side, though. Tyrex should have been able to win it, but no, doesn't get this shot, even with the better angle. But somehow, repost does get picked up because he rocked it all the way through. So now repost back. Floppers in hand. Okay, he's gone.
He's gone right now, and I'm trying to see if we can see eyes on Zora, Jarlin, and Squeaks here. I don't know if you've seen them at all, Monster. I'm trying to see on this panning shot now. I see Squeaks up there. They're up there. Good, because that's our team right now. They're in 7th place. This is actually getting kind of scary now, Monster. They need a good game now. If they don't get a good game now, it is going to be high potential that Zora, Jarlin, 2 players who have dominated on another region, they are below Storm Surge. This is scary. I feel like in these final rounds, in these formats, a lot of people are feeling secure in their qualification, consistency points, teams being rewarded. But right now, Squeaks, Zora, and Jarlin took a risk. If they do not end top 10 today, they do not make heats. Guaranteed, hands down, no debates, no ifs and buts. And right now, they're in 7th place, being ticked by Storm Surge in their 2nd last game. This is a terrible position to be in.
And it's crazy because they have a bit of high ground here as well. They literally have the high ground. They have something to play with, but they waited it all out. And now the surge is going to be enough. Jarlin down to 1 HP. Squeaks down to 1 HP. This is going to come down to one single tag, and no, they get taken down at the same time there.
51 players. They were the last team to go down to push this below Storm Surge. They are going to slip down into just inside top 10. If anything goes wrong next game,
maybe not.
Jarlin, Squeaks, and Zora are not making it into it. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to. They need about 8 or 9 more points in their last game to be safe. Qualification has been sitting around that 80-point mark for top 10. That is going to be one of the biggest upsets, not just of this region, but of any of the regions in round 4 of week 3.
Yeah, I think they're falling out of top 10 after this one. They fell very early. There's so much placement points to be up. There's so much elims on the board here. And with the amount of teams on the bubble, with how close the actual competition is, I really do think they're going to fall out at this point. It's going to come down to the last game. It's going to be a last game run, a last game stretch for not only that team, but so many others now. It is close on the standings.
Yeah, that is crazy right now. That is super, super unfortunate. I don't even know how that's going to play out. Game number 6 is going to be so, so exciting. Game number 5, though, is still going to be very important. Other teams trying to jump up into that top 10 position, trying to jostle and knock Zora's team out of here. As Chain's still in there, Toggle's still up in this fight as well. I'm seeing Russian in there, our 11th place team. Who's going to take high ground? Repulse's team's out of this one. Zora's team's out of this one, and Baffle's team has been weakened as well. So our usual teams that have been on high ground every game before this are out, and it looks like Kazi, Spy, and Russian are taking their chance to jump up. They came 11th last week. They don't want to fall outside the top 10 here. They want to push even higher.
They haven't gotten less than a top 10 today already, and they're looking to continue to finally put that long overdue Victory Royale on the map here. Can they keep pushing here? Can they do it? They're running out of ammunition up top. That's the firepower. That's all the juice there to win the game. If you don't have it, you have to come down. That's where the risk really starts to set in. So for Russian and the rest of the TP boys here, it is going to come down to this refresher right now.
Going to come down on this refresh. They've got 3 limbs right now. They've got decent match. They've got the bouncers. They're pushing forward. Does Zone continue to pull across and force all these teams to expend their match, tapping out? Or does Zone go back and give them a little bit of a breather? Zone 8 is going to be super important, not just for this team, but so many of the teams down the bottom. It starts to kind of pull back through, so they get a bit of a breather, going back through old builds, and that's what teams like this need right now. Get Fallen. They have the material, but they don't have the meds. They're going back through old tasks, that dragon shotgun in hand, trying to put down the big damage as Toggle, Switty, and Fizz are in this monster. They're at the very end. They're getting the big placements, but they need to survive a little bit longer. As Fizz goes in the box, and he falls, unfortunately. Right now, that team is down to 1 player holding on to their chance to get top 10.
Yeah, they're in it. They're in the top 10, and with every team that falls now, a placement point gets divvied out. These are big, big points here for everyone involved, everyone in the mix right now. TP team on high ground. Spy, Russian, Kazi, all looking for elims here. They didn't even get the refresher. Look at Spy, still at 8 bullets now. Down to everything, the empty in the gas tank here. He's going to have to hop on in. This is anyone's game right now, though, Aussie. I'm not seeing a clear victor at all for this high ground squad.
No, I'm not at all. And Zone has gone back through again. If you're going to get any condition to lead to a heal-off, Toggle going for that mid kit. I don't think he's going to be able to get that one off.
No.
I was going to say, going for the heal-off here. Zone has gone back. He does get it. It's gone back twice. So all these teams that are on the low ground get to keep going back through their tarps. They stay healthier. They don't run out of mats, and they don't get pushed into each other. So now, Kazi, Russian, and Spy need to play aggressive. They need to work their way in. They don't have the heal-off potential. Toggle on the low ground. 15 health right now. 2 ticks to Storm. Opens up the floor. Can't do anything. Lupius, Bridge, and Keeksy. This is a team with pressure on them as well. Bridge was dropped from his team playing with Culture and Brezzo at the start of the season, so he's only had 2 weeks to play with this team as well, so needs a big points up as well. Spy, Russian, and Kazi. I don't know if they're going to be able to win this one, Monster. They don't have the heal off. They don't have the ammo. They don't have the anything. You talked about it. I'm seeing one splash. That's it.
Yeah, he has nothing to follow up. Imagine he's going to jump with that charge and nothing to follow other than a harpoon weapon there. So it is going to be very close down low, though. Keeksy still popping off. 7 Elans for just him alone. Lupius and Bridge picking up 2 each of their own, and that's going to be 11. Nio on the other side, though. It's back and forth here. It's a scrappy fight down low. This Siphon might just be enough, though. They're coming through, but Russian, look at him. He's playing for the heal off.
Russian's playing the heal off, and I think he did just that. I think they actually did enough to go down. That one splash is enough. Don't come up. Don't take the tag. You have the heal off one, I believe. I don't know where the third teammate is. Never mind. One of them went back for the heal off. It's
no.
Keeksy. Keeksy, Lupius, and Bridge managed to win this one, but I think Nio, Fab, and Chemo with those points are going to be in first place. They came in at third. Our first and second place teams went down pretty early. I saw them breaking up towards 150 points, Monster. I think they've taken the lead, but going into game number 6, the story is going to have to be Zora, Jarlin, and Squeaks. What can they do? This is not looking good for them at all. They won game 1, and then the pace has just dropped.
Yeah, they were doing okay in game 2, didn't just enough, but we talked about they gave up their lead there. It takes a couple big games to break into the top. And we already talked about the pressure, right? This is a squad that needs to perform coming into this last round. Now more than ever, if you're a Zora fan or any of these guys, you're gonna have to root for them.
Yeah, game number 6. We're going to keep a close eye on them. If they're contested, if they move at all, we're going to have to keep it breaking down. Let's see it. Analyst, I don't know if you think it's as dire of a situation as me. Things are looking heated up right now. Vandy, please take it. Let us know how it's looking.
Thank you so much, Ozzy. Exactly right. We think it's dire straits. We've been discussing this, so I wanted to get Timmy's big brain working overtime on this because this is Ozzy's prediction, right? And we know that this is a top 10 team. They have been struggling today after getting that one victory royale. What is happening, Timmy? What do you think might be happening?
Well, I can't really break down what happened over the entirety of the tournament, but particularly for that last game, we can really speak to the fact that they didn't sort their surge. If you look at where they are when zone or when they're taking ticks for Storm Surge, you can see that they're actually on hide at half. So they have that alpha position. They have the position that they're looking to take the win from that game. The win conditions are really high, but if you don't sort your surge, if you don't get the Storm Surge that you really need to get, I'm sorry, you're not going to take the win, Fallout.
Yeah, that's right. Storm Surge has been such an effect here. It's actually kind of insane how much Storm Surge has impacted these games, right? We said last game a big reason we saw so much clustering was because of Storm Surge, and I think that's kind of typical in qualifiers. A last opportunity to qualify, a lot of teams and players playing for late game, but also a lot of players that are really competing in FNCS finals for the first time in a qual, and they're obviously learning the pace of the game. So kudos to them for that. It's been an interesting grand final, and I have to completely agree with our casters, Ozzy and Monster. We are making for what is going to be a ridiculous game number 6, because at this point, we do need to see Jalen, Squeaks, and co go huge, because this is the only opportunity that they have to qualify. They will not qualify out of series points, as they played with Price, made the decision to pick up Squeaks, the solo mechanical god, and we'll see if it pays off for them here, Timmy.
Yeah, and I'm actually not as worried as you guys, I think. The reason being is I just know how good they are. I know how experienced they are. I know that they know what they need to do. And I think they're just going to get it done game 6 here. I think they're confident. They're going to take fights. If they need to take fights, they're going to look for hide at half, and they're going to look for the win. I'm not worried about them at all. The story of the game here, I think, was Queeksy. Queeksy really showing off his mechanical ability on the controller, and then ended up with a heal off there. 7 elims for him as they move up the standings there. So this is a newly formed trio, because Bridges, as Ozzy alluded to, was actually playing with Brezzo and Culture earlier on. So to see those guys pop off with an 11 elim win there is going to be huge for their qualification as well.
Yeah, it was insane. As the dust settled, we didn't think it would be Queeksy by any means that was going to win it. We thought that the team, I think it was Neo, Fab, and them that had such a ridiculous inventory, so many floppers and med kits, especially in a potentially decent heel-off meadow, they were going to win it. But instead, Queeksy's able to hold on. Of course, TP and them got caught in a late-game skirmish, and in the end, Queeksy did come out on top. But I think it was Neo, Fab, and Chemo with the pop-off game that's going to stick them in the top 2, top 3 in standings, Vandy.
Well, let's have a look. I mean, let's not guess, because I do have the standings ready here for you. Timmy, if you start taking us through them.
Yeah, so Neo, Fab, and Chemo, that last game really proven to be the jumping point there as they move up 23 points clear of everyone else, 35 elims to their name after 5 games, 7 across, an average of 7 is not a joke at all. Baffle season in second there. I think he's basically secured his qualification, which everyone in the community will be stoked about. Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrex with 45 elims combined between the 3 of them over 5 games. Again, just ridiculous gameplay from them. And then rounding out, we've got Russian, Kazi, and Spy, the guys who missed out by 1 place last week to qualify, and Cripper, Rip, and BMP rounding out top 5.
Yeah, it looks like it might be a 4-horse race here in the final, but 4 teams that could potentially take first. I can't wait to see who it's going to be. We'll quickly breeze through these last few pages, though, as we do have Cinderfallen and Get, kind of the Dark Horse Cinderella team that has been playing consistent throughout. They played consistent in the last qualifier, and you'll see there in 9th place, Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks. We keep talking about them. Timmy says he's not too nervous, and I think I have to agree. In 9th place right now, they didn't slip out of the top 10 like we thought that they may. They just have to clutch up here in Game 6, but they are right on the fringe as we take a look at 11 through 15.
Yeah, but one thing I really want to point out there, 10th place, Bridge, Queeksy, and Lupius with that win. You got to think 11 elims plus the first place. That is a 52-point game as they jump up to 73 points. And then just outside the standings there in 11th, Grav, Nunker, and Chain. So I think coming into these last few games, we're going to be watching a few of these teams. But, keep in mind, Queeksy with his pop-off in that last game, Jalen and Squeaks, and then, of course, Nunker and Chains as they're right on the bubble there.
Yeah, the one team that sticks out to me the most here is in 16th place, Me Sports, Spaghetti Soul, and Ice. They got taken out by the Middle East team in Zweedy and them that last game in that 3 versus 3. Kind of clean fight between the two of them, and despite being on high ping, Ozzy called it perfectly. And speaking of how well Zweedy played that, how well they play that high ping scenario, they got taken out early in that last game. So they'll need a pop-off game here in our last game, number 6. I'm excited to see what they can do, Vandy.
That's exactly it, because this is going to be the final match of the day. This is going to be do or die for some squads. And I mean, I'm glad to hear that the situation isn't as dire for Zora's squad. I'm just keen to see how this all plays out, because of course we do have the reboot round, but we'll discuss that when we get to there. For our final time today, though, I do hear that match number 6 is ready. So let's not keep you guys waiting. Let's jump straight over to Aussie Antics and Monster.
Thank you so much, Vandy. I'm going to have to say it. I picked them, and I don't know why I'm the one who's going to be saying it, but I am actually pretty scared here for Zora, Jalen, Squeaks' team, because right now they're going to need that kind of like 5 to 10 points. 10 points would probably guarantee the qual right now, and in their last few games, they haven't actually gotten that. Their game before, they only came 12th with 2 eliminations, and then 20th with 1 elim. I know what Timmy's saying. I picked them. I know they have the potential, but things could come unstuck really quickly, Monster.
Yeah, that's just it, right? And now we're hopping into this final round here, the last game of the evening for the qualifying weeks. Who will punch the ticket all the way to the east and at that point battle their way through the heats? Obviously, we've seen a big upset, big fights going down all day today. This time around, the map reveals something new to us once again. Retail Row, uncontested, Caddy's Corner. Did Zwitty and them bully the team out of Caddy? Maybe.
Honestly,
maybe.
I mean, from what we've watched tonight, behind Repulse, I'd actually have to put them down as one of the scariest teams in early game here in this lobby, which is absolutely insane. All credit to them, the fact that they're doing that. And now we get, thank you, Obs, again, perfect kind of like breakdown of what's going on here. Jalen, Squeak, Zora are still uncontested, Sweaty. There is no team near them, which, is kind of good to see in the early game. But as Timmy touched on, everything's going wrong in Storm Surge. They're just not finding their Surge tags. They're getting that alpha position half-half, and they haven't had enough damage early. This game with no one near them, they need to be more proactive to go find it, as Alze's team taking the big fight here outside Holly, and now I know how this fight's breaking down. They're not both landing at Holly and then fighting as they push towards Viking Ship. One team is dropping Viking Ship, one team is dropping Holly, and it's leading to this very delineated kind of standoff until they engage.
Yeah, this is a standard fight here. This is a standard engagement for the Holly teams. They do tend to go to 1-to-1 here on the drop. And we talked about Rainbow Rentals playing a big important part of this as well. There's a squad that rotates up late, so We'll see. Got to wrap this one up nice and quick here. Lucas going to hop on in, finds a shot, but not enough. There goes the follow-up. Nice tags there. Osway in the lead as well. His squad mates down, though. It's not looking good for them.
No, things going backwards and forwards. Looks like it's 2 apiece right now. I think it's a 2v2, and both these teams are on similar points. I was noticing. I mean, Luke's team, never mind, more towards that 60 mark. They needed a little bit more to get inside that top 10 because they can qualify, as you just said. If they get this reboot now, if they get this last elimination and they can try and pull off something big, there's a lot of potential on them to make that top 10, where Alze's team's kind of more towards that 20 points. I don't think it's even possible, but series points, everyone needs it. They're fighting just the same. They're fighting just as hard, as now it's a 1v1 situation. Lucas on 120 has the big pot, not opting to pop it because he knows Alze is low. He gets the mini off in between. Is that enough? And that mini was the difference. Alze goes back onto about 3 health. Popping that mini was a godsend here, but Lucas can have time to get the big pot off. Alze has to push in with not much hope here. He doesn't even have, I think, a good enough shotgun to be able to get the one tack off here with how much health Lucas is on. Can he somehow pull it off? I don't think so, Monster, but maybe.
No, I mean, he's got no builds now as well, so he's going to go ahead and try to pull a desperate heal here. It's a bit of a reset. I mean, Lucas might just be able to back off too, right? He's got a down player. You don't want to lose the Siphon either. There goes the pickup for the reboot card. No, he's hunting now. He's recognized that he's found that the right camera peak is just enough. That is a massive, massive 3 eliminations here for Lucas, Thrusty, and Abs. So let's really talk about that. 6 points here, Aussie at Holly Hedges. 64 points now. They're in contention for the bubble team. 4 teams to break top 10.
Yeah, right now, 3 eliminations, 6 points. That helps you massively as we see another team, Taker, who's in a similar position right now. They have their 3 eliminations, 6 points on the board, but getting in another fight, there is a lot of teams here. I do not know what happened down here near Slurpee. Mavericks match you with a Lucifer. This is a full trio. There's a trio v trio v trio, and one of those trios already has 3 elims. What happened down here?
Yeah, I'm not sure what caused the migration, the big migration down south, especially considering Slurpee Swamps that for the majority of this was uncontested, and the lakes or this entire swamp area was also uncontested overall. Rocket launcher comes out. Oh no, the takeout, but he does hit the shot there onto LZ, and this is just messy. Mustard's gonna get in here. Mustard doesn't have a shot, I'd say, at qualifying unless they kill the entire lobby. They'd have to pop off all the way through to the very end. And I mean, even now he's down a player, so they're losing elims. They're trading into other teams right now.
Right now, Muzz is trying to push up this one. Has the Peppers, can maybe try and play more of an aggressive style here with the blue tack. Only 7 pellets in the shotgun, though. Trying to break through the walls and seeing what they can do. It's going to be an awkward fight again. Whoever wins this one, it's a decent area of the map. They can even use, obviously, the Slurp Lake there to try and get it back. They can go into Slurpee, try and get the barrels. I don't know. I think one of these teams has pushed out from Slurpee here. There's the RBG being handed over as well from Hydro Dam, so we know where one of these teams came from. But yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I was hoping to see the enemy perspective too. Yes, exactly. What's on the line for teams like LZQM and Taker here? We're at 49 points now. 6 elims already. There it is. The narrative is unfolding for you. They are trying to come back from a huge point deficit. These are those final big game stretches here. Either push your way up to top 10, but more importantly, get those series points, lock it in, punch in the ticket to the Heat Week.
Yeah, Mavericks trying to push through here. No rockets in the back pocket, though, unfortunately. I'm seeing another team rotating in, and based on that positioning, I think that might be, maybe it could be Repulse's team, and it is. Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax coming in hard. They're going to close this one out. Mavericks run. There is no way. You put up a good fight. You've taken on plenty of trios. You somehow walked out of it, but you're just not winning this one. There's just no way.
Yeah, this is what they love to do as well, right? Walk into teams that are just wrapping things up. Find players that are isolated out. They already found one on the right. They're like, nah, we got another one running left here. Let's go for this guy instead. This one's closer to the zone. We want to get closer to more enemies. It makes more sense to go that way. And it looks like they're splitting up the resources. They're going 2 for 1 right now.
They are going 2 for 1 right now here. I'm not really sure how they're going to be able to play this one. They're just trying to close in, make sure they get all angles. This team can't disengage. You literally see them just flanking around and just pincing this one from every single side to make sure they can't get out. And they got the loot advantage. They got the firepower advantage. I'm going to have to say they've probably got the skill advantage in this fight, as Mavericks gets a good tag on a Tyrax, but can't do much for it, unfortunately.
That's it. Quick wrap up there, and the coastal rotate's going to pay off for repost as well. You can see just inside the inventory, the loot. The fish to take to end game. This is why they're able to take these big fights, take any of these pop-offs and bounce right back. If someone gets knocked, it's like they just have the reset, right? The reset button. And for a team like this to have that reset button in a lobby like this, they just dominate. And this is why they've been able to shine all the way up until this point. Big sniper shots come in though. Gonna be slowing them down here for a little bit.
Yeah, gonna try and slow them down here. I haven't seen Zora's team in the feed, so I think they're chilling. I want to see if they're getting their Storm Surge up though, because getting their early damage is gonna be really important. Like Timmy said, they're a team that is gonna 100% be able to push this one home if they've managed their early and mid-game Storm Surge, because that's been their biggest issue so far here as Squeaks, Jarlin, and Zora, as I say that, are set up here on top of the hotel. They've got a really good zone. So what they're going for here to manage their Storm Surge right now is they've set up on the highest point here on the edge of the zone, knowing that every team is pushing in here. This is the heavy congested edge. They don't want to rotate in further and get a position in the middle because they still need their Storm Surge because they were uncontested here. These are the kind of decisions that are going to fix up their end game and make sure they push through here.
And luckily this last game has taken care of a lot of it on its own. The correction and the number count up there, 72 up. Jalen's going to get sniped there. Not what he was looking for, but still nonetheless a couple tags going to make him happy. They need more though. They need a lot more, because although the first Storm Surge may not be a big deal, we know the next ones are definitely going to come.
The next ones are definitely going to come there if they can try and do something big here. Prex is pushing through. Team GLM, I feel like we've seen them a lot on the screen, but haven't been able to do too much down there around the 30 points. Fallen, Sinner, and Gek, all that's been calling them out as a team to look out for. They've been doing big things, looking like they may have to make it out here. And a lot of these teams rotating around Zora, Squeaks, and Jarlin, and I'm not seeing too many tags come out, Monster.
I know, it's the worst case scenario right there when teams are trying to rotate outside of the POI that you're at. And listen, this may be a great spot to hold up, but get into the water, get into the center zone makes more sense. This is only zone 2, and most of this is off to the edge. So they're probably trying to get to that Coral Castle.
Shots coming out. I mean, they're finding the angles, but are they finding the damage? Are they, like, I'm just not seeing any tags, Monster. I don't think it's like a replay thing. I just don't think they're hitting shots right now. It's just that simple. Wavy gets tagged a little bit there, but they haven't moved yet. They're still set up here. So I know they haven't hit their tags because they're still trying to find them.
Yeah, it's the pressure. It's the finals pressure. It's the qual pressure. More sniper shots coming in. We've already seen this angle get exploited once by a sniper shot, so they have to be careful. Look at the excess amount of heals, so they're not too worried about that, even medkits in hand. But look, Jalen just showing that he's willing to go toe-to-toe with the sniper is the clear indicator that, again, they need these tags, and they are doing anything, desperately looking for any tags.
Yeah, Jalen's trying to find the shots around because this is going to come down to an actual engagement here. Like, we haven't had the Storm Surge warning. There's only 68 alive, though, so I think Storm Surge is going to be a bit weak at this game. It's gone very, very far northwest here. Right now, a lot of these teams going to be going big or going home. It's game number 6. You've got to get your big eliminations on the board. Not everyone's in the position like Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks, where they just need a little bit more. A lot of them need a lot more, so they're going to be taking that repulse playstyle and pushing a lot of fights and trying to get those big damage. You see it there in the bottom left. This is game number 6, round 4 of week 3, your last chance to qualify. Most of these teams are going to make it through off consistency, the teams you've been seeing here time and time again. But if you just missed it, if you don't know the story, we've been kind of ramping up here. Zora's team reformed this week. They're a brand new team. If they don't make top 10 or stay in top 10, because they're currently in 9th, they will be dropping out and they will not make heat. And they've got 2 teams right behind them in 10th and 11th, only 2 points behind. 1 elimination. The pressure is seriously on as I see Squeaks getting a limb in the feet. That's damage, and that's 2 crucial points. That's what you want to see if you're cheering on this team.
Yeah, for sure there now. And again, that allows them to really ease up, right? In the next 20 seconds, they're going to have a big decision to make on how they want to rotate this. They've seen so many teams already make the cut across, so they have to assume the back edge is going to be pretty clear. But this means that more teams are now situated inside of the new zone. Here's the squad that's doing just that. On that line for qualification is Lupius, Bridge, and Keeksy here, winning a game in the previous jump. We talked about how high that put them up. Those 50-point game swings are no joke.
They're big jumps. I mean, this zone, what is that zone right now? This is great for, I would say normally it's great for Squeaks, Jalen, and Zora as they drop up here, but they're set up on the edge here to get these Storm Surges, left them rotating really late. They have to get through all these teams now. They have to be really smart about their rotate. This next 2 minutes is going to decide everything for this team, whether they make heats, and that's what I like to see, getting the vehicle there, driving this one along. This is going to keep them together. They're now rotating more towards that south side. You see that beautiful map shot on the the left there. They're just trying to make it through, but that is Forbes' team to their left right now. So if they can just make this next couple of minutes, they're going to get in. They do. They make it far enough away from Repulse's team that I'm confident they're not going to get keyed from it. And if they now make this next rotate, things are looking great for them. They didn't get the high ground position, but they got their surge tags to set them up to hopefully just even a top 10, I think, would have to do it, Monster.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a fair amount of points. Those placements are going to be something involved in the mix there. Already talked about how they had that lead. They had that victory royale. It'd be devastating for a team to have actually pulled a victory royale, but then not qualify somehow. It almost seems impossible, but that's the situation they put themselves in. All because they fell short in the point dispersion. Just all over the place, man. Everyone's really making it nice and close towards the bottom. Another team, Absol, Thrusty, and Lucas, the 3 elims that they picked up just earlier on in the match really puts them back up, and they're, again, knocking on that top 10 right there. They're just behind other squads that are also battling for the same spot.
Man, OCE being put through the wars today. We're talking about how these are new up-and-coming teams getting their chance to prove themselves. They might be feeling nervous. They've gotten the worst zones I've potentially ever seen in a 6-game format, Monster. I know you've commentated even more Fortnite than me, but 2 really bad mountain zones and then a really bad water zone. This is rough.
Yeah, this is a crazy one because 50% of the map is it's not on, right? So like everyone's gonna be on top of one another. It's gonna make it even worse than it already was. Like this is a tough situation. And then of course, you know, when the zone starts flowing, it's probably not going to the water. So you're gonna have to sit on top of these other players and play with one another. So that's it. That's the cards that have been dealt, and this is a rough game.
Yeah, this is a rough game right now. We haven't seen Zora's team go down. I'm trying to look for the same color. I think they've kind of just made it into that big bulk. There it is, Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks. Man, every time I say something, observers, thank you. They're sitting right there next to all the builds here. They're kind of under it, and they're in a good spot. I like this. They're separated a little bit. They're not close enough where people can, you know, box fight them or really maybe try and pull off something cheeky like farming into the back of their tarp, but they're also close enough where they still have that cover where I don't think they're going to get lobby focused out here unless something goes very wrong, and that's the luxury they have now, Monster, from setting up early and getting those surge tags, right? They got their tags early. They really invested in getting them, knowing that was the issue like Timmy talked about. So now they can set off a little bit further away and they can kind of sit here and not be as scared because these are the kind of teams you want to avoid.
Yeah, definitely. The Repost, the Forbes, and the Tyractus who are hunting players down. Sanjay gets caught out as the trailer behind this trio, and you talk about players recycling tarps. They are doing just that, running through enemy tarps, finding any elims. They already know they made their way through. They're qualing all the way up, but also just popping off along the way. They're happy. It's smooth sailing. This is an Eastern team right now getting pushed into the west side of things, and all the squads on the west now stacking up on one another. Big snipes coming in. Rise of Cyrex. They don't want that coming in. Not here, not now. They can still qualify as well. So many teams. Ooh, Sinner goes down in the feed though. That's an actual big elim. Hold up. Sinner was in 6th place with 84 points. So Gek and Fallen, they're not completely safe at 84 points.
Yeah, they're going to jump up a little bit more. I think it might hold, and they are. This looks like it was just a headshot snipe, so I think they'll be able to get the revive there. They should be okay. And this zone is very, very favorable to our Zora, Jalen, and Squeaks team right now. They're set up away from those boxes, like I said. I see them right in the middle of that zone. They're not going to have the half potential again. This is zone 4. Coming into zone 5 right now, you actually want to be more on the edge, but the massive advantage for them, wherever zone goes right now, they're in a good spot, right, Monster? They might not get gifted that high ground, you know, on half that leads to a big win, but they're in a great spot to guarantee at least a good game. If zone goes south, east, north, or west, they're only one bouncer away, and there it is, 576 above. They manage their surge. They are going to be okay to play this one safe, and you can see it there. They're not opening a single edit monster. They're sitting in their boxes. They're like, hey, a top 10 place in this game will get us top 10 and get us to the semis. Let's play for that. Let's not go too aggressive. As Repulse has already got his top 10, he's always going aggressive.
Yeah, he's got a completely different game plan and strategy here. They're just trying to heal back up and get back into it. Zora finds one. That's big. That's another set of points again that swings in their direction. That's a 2-point swing. DP's Russian's going to find one as well. Don't forget, these are squads that are just outside of the question, just outside of the bubble here, trying to fight their way in. A point team on 58. Flare Road is not looking good, and this is not going to be enough. No, he gets wiped out. It's one squad down.
While we're focusing on all these teams trying to make top 10 and a top, it looks like, unfortunately, Baffle season did come to an abrupt end here in Game 6. I don't think their team connected in. I haven't seen them at all. I've heard there was a bit of an issue there. Either way, they're guaranteed top 10. They had a phenomenal day, but it does suck when your second place team doesn't make it into the last game to try and, you know, secure that first place. But they're going to have a chance to do it again if they try to make it through into the semifinals as Jarlin makes the big rotate. I said if zone goes south, east, north, or west, they'll be in a good spot. They were the team closest to making this rotate, but Jarlin hits the bouncer in the open and gets fried. Zora and Squeaks box up around him. They're holding the walls there, so they go through some meds and they make the rotate, and they should be okay. Here it is. They're going to sit up here on the edge. They might be able to even build up here and try and go for high ground. I think they are. If they're getting the front side of half zone, this is the decision point. Timmy said it. They're going to feel confident. They're going to build up, and they're going to try and go for games like they would any other game. Not looking like it so far. They're looking a little bit scared as I don't see Jarlin. There's Jarlin. Never mind. Jarlin was right there. Thank gosh. They split up a little bit.
They actually split up. They have two players in a base. Yeah, two players in a base, Jarlin in the distance here, and they're taking their time because that mountain was still looming down and over. So you can just see the cautious play, even for the high ground take. They don't want to risk it, and I don't know, Ozzy, I'm feeling pretty good about this now. I think they're pulling it all together.
I think they're pulling all together. I mean, Timmy just, I swear, the man is like in the future when it comes to a lot of this stuff. He predicted, he said they're going to get their surge early and they're going to be able to hold that high ground on half like they tried to do in game 1, like they tried to do last game. But honestly, it's just when you know a good team. This is a team that's new to playing together, but are definitely not new to the game by any means. We've been talking them up all night. They were my prediction because I know how good they are, and you knew they were going to fix those issues as long as they put it together, and that's what they've done. If they get pretty much any of these zones, I have to think they have the advantage, right, Monster? Because even if it goes all the way across the water, there's no team that's closer to that rotating zone than them. They're in the best position of any team in the lobby right now. I don't think anyone can take height off them unless they make a very aggressive play.
Yeah, let's not forget, they also drove the vehicle all the way through with max material coming in, so they are very much in a beautiful position. Here's the great bouncer, the mobility. This is the time you really want to hope you have bouncers, these weird zones that go max distance pulls here, and it's just working out now. It seems like all the puzzles are starting to come together here for Jarlin, Squeaks, and Zor, and they can see it all coming to life here. The bigger picture is starting to come to life right now.
They jump back up there. I'm only worried about any team with maybe Rockets, maybe a team like Repulse who really wants to try and alpha hide. As long as they can avoid that, they should be fine. But again, I'm going to put the pressure on them. They're a team that I know can handle that. If someone alphas the height off them at this point, they've got no excuses. This is their chance. You've done everything right up until this point. You've got a good zone. You've got your surge. What can you make of it? And this is a good sign for them. Repulse's team being pinned down here in the low ground, trying to push up for that first place. Like I said, unfortunately, Team Baffle in second didn't connect in. Neo, Fab and Kimo are up the top there. Can they hold it? Because Repulse is knocking on the door, but man, he's being pressured right now.
Yeah, it's back and forth situation all over the place here, but Jarlin is still holding his high ground. Seems like they have managed to continue to maintain the front side in with heavy material as well. 400 damage above the surge while everyone else has to worry about the fight. They can just continue to cruise on through. Hopefully they can find a little bit more though. 80 points is good, but if you fall short now, that's probably not going to be enough, so they're going to need a little bit more here. Other times, teams fighting through. Coyote's going to fall there.
I mean, they've only just made it inside placement now. Top 17 is where it starts getting divvied out. They've only just gotten their first points on the board. Those 2 eliminations, that's going to be 4 points. And the placements, if they get upwards around that 90 mark, they're 100% safe. 85, it is racking up. It looks like they might be on their victory lap. I put the pressure on them, but I knew they could deliver. They're jumping up. Teams are falling left, right, and center. This zone was a tough one. It went all the way to the northwest. It went all the way to the water, and now it's going all the way down the coastline. And Zora, Squeaks, and Jarlin are going all the way to the semifinals. They will be playing in the heats. They've reformed in the last week. They put all the pressure on themselves, all the confidence, and they managed to do it, Monster.
They actually managed to do it. They figured it out, and they will be up towards that top 10. That's going to be enough. That team right there, though, Ryza was in 12th place, and he's already popping off here. End game for him could be the qualifying run right now. Rip on the other side. They definitely have made their way through. Here's Ryza, side 78. He falls short just outside or within the top 10. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. Zora on the other side, we already know. They've done what they had to do at this point. Now they can pop off and play for that second victory royale here. Will they be able to get the second? They should, and close this out nice and happy for the evening.
Yeah, and I haven't seen some of the other teams in there. Bridge, Keeksy, and Lupius. I want to know where they managed to fall in all this one as well, because they needed a big game to try and jump up. And I see Mars's team down there as well. So some teams that are really on the bubble right now, but Zora, Squeaks, and Jalen looking like they might be able to qual with the 2 victory royales, getting 2 of the 6 here. They don't have the heal-off potential, but I think with how fast this lobby is thinning out, I don't think it's going to make it to the end of that Zone 9. 1 minute 29 is how long these 5 teams are to hold this one off, as Lazy being put on the back foot as well. Cripper and Rip trying to do something, a last-ditch effort to try and make something happen.
Yeah, but they're up there as well. So these are all your big teams up towards the top. Zora's going to hop in now, get the exchanges. He got the hot hands. He's going to go in and trade. Jalen's going to come in now, looking for any kind of angle. It's only a 1 tick on the other side there. They definitely have everything that they need here. He's going to get the knock just to the storm line. There goes the dance. Ozzy, he's celebrating early. He's feeling it right now.
He's feeling it right now. He managed to do it. They brought it back as pretty much everyone knew they could. The pressure at the end there. Squeaks going for the heal off here. Can't really go for the med kit there. The player comes out. Squeaks gets the knock onto Rip, but he can't get the finish. It is now Jalen in a 1v1 situation. What an exciting way to finish it. Both these teams don't need this win, but both of them are going to want a Jalen with the big health disadvantage. Fallout hyped him up. He's a competitive veteran. He's been here before. I don't think he cared in the end. I think Jalen was happy to hit the dance moves, know that he made it through, and then Cripper hitting the dance too with the exact same dance. What a way to finish OCE. There's a whole bunch of questions though, Monster. How did some of these teams manage to go? Again, I touched on it there at the end. Nunca, Grav, and Chains was up there. Bridge, Keeksy, and Lupius. Did these teams make it inside the top 10? We know Jalen, Zora, and Squeaks did, but how did everybody else go?
And I was just going to say also, Fizz, Tago, and Zwitty was in 8th at 77 points, and it was going back and forth there, Ozzy, so it is going to be close.
It's going to be close. Either way, I think a lot of those teams are going to make it in off consistency. Either way, we'll be back with the broadcast next week for the semifinals. Me and Monster will be on the horn again for Heats, which is going to be so exciting. Thank you for joining us, but we're going to throw it over the analysts and Vandy. Let us know if you guys have any idea of who made this top 10, because I know it's going to be exciting leaderboard.
This is going to be a great leaderboard. First, though, thank you so much, you guys, for your amazing energy all throughout the day with your commentating, because it was such a treat. But of course, we want to break down that game. And I mean, Timmy wasn't scared. Well, yeah, you never really questioned them, right? Zora, Jalen, they had it in the bag. They performed under pressure. Ozzy maybe just a little bit defensive on his prediction. But let's hold the phone here, because Fallout, I'm going to jump to you, of course, and just kind of take us through some key highlights, some key moments of that final game before, of course, we start to talk into our top 10.
Yeah, honestly, I got to take it right back to Timmy and giving him all the gas and all the kudos in the world. He called it. He perfectly predicted that they were going to clutch up when it mattered the most. You'll see it in the highlights right here. They did it from start to finish, but the thing that stuck out to me in particular when the highlights do get there is how they were able to early rotate on one of the first moving zones and capitalize by taking high ground. It was textbook. Timmy actually, as we were talking here, predicted that as well. He was like, they're going to hold high ground. They're going to hold high ground. They're going to win this game. They sure enough came close to it, Timmy. You called it brilliantly. You called it perfectly. And in the end, Jalen, Zora, and Squeaks, the veterans plus the recent mechanically skilled God and Squeaks, they dominate and they will qualify through.
Yeah, and as we continue to talk about those guys, I mean, there's lots of stuff going on here, but as we said, the big story is those guys making the qualification. The really important thing was them sorting their surge out, and we have to shout out a little bit of the zone RNG. They got some really nice zones where they could sit up on edge and farm surges, people were rotating into them, but the important thing was their how would you say, like, the way that they looked at to absolutely alpha height here at half. You see them move earlier. Jalen got beamed on the way, but they stayed up on height the entire time, and it was so free for them. You see Jalen hitting the dance at the end because they just knew they'd qualify.
Yeah, he knew he was feeling good. He knew they had nothing more to play for at that point since they did qualify through. They clutched up and mattered the most. And, you know, a couple other teams I want to give a shout out to. You saw Gek right there. They're able to make it to late game. So very consistent performance from Sinner, from Gek and co. Kudos to them. And then, of course, you got to give some respect to Crippa. An absolute pop-off game. It's 9 eliminations. Crippa takes home first place. That will put them from 4th or 5th, potentially into the top 2, maybe even in first place. So we'll see who comes out on top in the end of the overall standings to see who won the tournament. But again, the story of that last game was all Jalen, Squeaks, and, of course, they will qualify through now. They had to place top 10, and they did it.
We are interested as well to see exactly how this kind of played out because, of course, those standings, which we are calculating. But again, a big congratulations to our finals winners, which we have a special little graphic prepared of. So we're going to just chuck that on screen. But, I mean, what kind of really stood out to you from this day, Timmy?
Well, you got to admit, it's the 48-point game from Crippa, Rip, and BMP to finish off a 9 elim win, taking them right over the top to secure the win here. Huge last game for them there to end up over the top of Neo, Chemo, and Fab, who had a fantastic game as well, tournament as well. Don't take anything away from them. But these guys, their last game proving to be the one that really put them over the top Fallout.
Yeah, completely agree. That was a massive last game. Kudos and congratulations to Crippa, Rip, and BMP. It's exactly what you want to see going into heats when things are obviously going to heat up in our semifinals and our next round of the tournament, Vandy.
Mm-hmm. Because as you guys said, I mean, we're jumping ahead of ourselves, but of course, as you kind of touched on very, very early into the broadcast for next week is not going to be any more qualifiers. Next week, we actually get into the business end of things with our semifinals coming up. So day 1, day 2, and then of course the week after finals. But let's see who actually qualified from today, because I just received word that the standings are underway. So Fallout, why don't you take us through our top 10 who qualified from today?
Absolutely. Just a refresher for what's at stake. Top 10 means you qualify through, you earn a spot. Teams will also earn 102 spots from series points if they played consistently. And in first place, we talked about is Crippa, Rip, and BMP. Neo, Fab, and Chemo, well, I was really, really impressed from them. Only 6 points behind first, consistency throughout. And then, of course, Repulse, Forbes, and Tyrax. Take a look at their elimination points. Over 50 elims from them across the entire game, significantly ahead of everyone else in the lobby. They absolutely just keyed and fragged out. Baffle season obviously was on great display here today as Baffle, M1, and Sacco in fourth, finally Russian, Kazi, and Spy. Well, they didn't do it last time. They did it this time with a 5th place finish as we took a look at the second page here, 6th through 10th. Tim, you walk me through it.
Yeah, well, here we go. There's our lads, Dora, Jarlin, and Pub, and Sweet, coming in at 6th. Getting a 2nd place in that last game. Could have even been higher if Jarlin wasn't dancing on height there at the end. But their proactivity and the way that they looked to take height in that last game, they're really, again, showing me their experience, showing me how they were really wanting to take the altitude from the rest of the lobby and end up taking the qualification home. Sin, Fallen, and Gek in 7th there. Bluesy, Lazy, and Reckless coming through with a 12. Nunca, Chains ending up qualifying as well. You love to see that. Again, these guys placed 6th in finals last season, so automatic qual is really nice. And then this is probably my favorite moment of the day today. Bridge, Queetsy, and Lupius. They actually only had a 5-point game in that last game, but it was enough to just squeak them in. You got to remember they had an 11 elim win, a 52-point game in the 4th game to really put them over the edge there. And it was a tiebreaker. That win there puts them over the edge in the tiebreaker to beat out Doom, Riser, and Cyrex in 11th there, Fallout.
Absolutely insane. And I believe this is their first time playing as a team, so they wouldn't have had series points because we know Bridge was playing with Culture and Brezzo earlier in the tournament. So kudos to them. They'll make it through, and this is the heartbreaking page. Doom, Riza, and Cyrix, I'm not sure where they're at in the overall series points that they've been playing consistently, but I think they've qualified for at least 1 or 2 tournaments. They should make it through. Fizz, Toggle, and Zwitty in 12th. Not able to break into the top 10 on high ping, but again, consistency is key here for them and a few of these other teams as we now take a look at our 16th through 20th slide to round out our results here. Timmy, Thrusty, and Lucas, of course, in 14th, but Timmy, walk me through 16th through 20th.
Yeah, bit of a sad story for a few of these teams. Nisport, Soul, and Ice again running afoul of some of the best players in the region a couple of times, which is unfortunate. And yeah, essentially just my guess, a few of these teams struggling to put together Storm Surge, maybe one of their first finals, or not being as confident in fights as they might usually be in, say, a Cash Cup or something else. But I think it's really important to get these games on the board, playing in a finals, playing under this sort of pressure, which is actually one thing I think is really good about playing these last, where round 4, you don't have those same winners in the same player pool. So I think it's really good to get these guys some experience under their belts. But yeah, a bit of a sad day for them, but I'm sure they'll be back with a vengeance in the next decade.
That's a really lovely point that you drew attention to, Timmy, and one that I wanted to also shout out to because, yeah, we saw a lot of new different teams that we otherwise hadn't seen in qualifiers week 1 and week 2, and it's just about establishing and making sure we have that ongoing talent pool. But guys, it's getting to that part of the show. Before I close up though, over the last 3 weeks, we've had some amazing musical performances to celebrate the FNCS OCE. This week is no different. So we have Ashwarya, one of Australia's rising global stars, who teamed up with Loser Fruit to perform a couple of amazing tunes. You can check out the full show on Ashwarya's YouTube channel, which will be starting soon. Follow the link that will be dropping in chat because that'll be right after this broadcast. But Fallout, Timmy, what a day it's been, huh? Any last remarks before I close the show up?
Yeah, look, I just want to say congratulations to all players that qualified, and even those that did not, kudos to you, and a big shout out to Epic Games, of course, for supporting the Oceania region with the broadcast. Every single tournament being broadcast means we get to highlight and put on display the great talent down in Oceania. And again, if you're a team that did not qualify through, keep on grinding, because guess what? FNCS next season will be back, and I want to keep seeing the improvement tournament over tournament. So thank you so much to everyone that watched us online. Thank you so much to the Australian Open as well for supporting in a major way.
And yourself, Timmy? Any last remarks?
Just a big shout out to you guys making my job easy. Big shout out to the cast for doing a great job, production, awesome stuff. And I can't wait to come back for heats. There's lots of talent in this region that we're going to see, fight it out in heats for those spots and finals. And then of course the reboot round is going to be awesome.
Thank you so much, guys. And I mean, you've said it all. You've thanked our broadcasters. You've thanked Epic Games. You've thanked the Australian Open. You've thanked everyone. We'll see you here in the same place next time for the semi-finals. Catch you then.